Bershus, the Rabbanim and Mashpiim, Kol HaKol HaKadosh, and each one of you, welcome. Those who are here in person and those who are here online. This year marks 28 years since Gimmul Tammuz Tafshin Nun Daled. It's a day with so many memories and so many hergeshim and such deep meaning. It's an awesome day. It was a chilly winter night in 1973. As a successful businessman, community activist, is sitting in Yechidus with the Rebbe. They talk about many things: local, foreign politics, reform, conservative, Orthodox Judaism, and they speak about the situation in Eretz Yisrael. After 90 minutes of conversation between the Rebbe and the UJA chairman, Mr. Frank Lauderman, the Yechidus was coming to a close. But before it ended, the Rebbe turned the conversation more personal. Mr. Lauderman, I am turning towards you, towards your soul, not as the chairman of the UJA, but as a Jew. Since you say that I am a rabbi with special qualities, then when you look in the mirror tomorrow morning, if you see the same Mr. Laudenberg, I've achieved nothing. Tonight, as we Farbrengen together as a community, let's ask ourselves this question. Tomorrow morning, will we be a different self, a better version, a more refined version of who we are? Tonight, this evening, let's apply ourselves and do our very best. So that way, tomorrow morning comes and we say a resounding yes. Yes to ourselves, yes to our family, the impact it will have on our family and our friends and those around us. L'chaim l'vracha. Poischim midvar malchus, man malke rabbanon, Mora da Ashraf Kehilas Kodesh Semach Tzedek Lubavitch of Monsey, Harav Hagoin Rav Leshes Shlita.
Thank you very much. L'chaim. Welcome, alle junge Leute, sind gekommen, für Kinderlach, and Rabbonim and Mashpiim and everybody, and we have obviously the guest speakers. As we know that Gimmul Tammuz, as I just mentioned now, it's not an easy day for all of us, but I mentioned a few times that the Rebbe Gizok Beferish, when the Rebbe Tzemach Tzedek was asked by wherever, what will be after you, in the end was, Chassidim will sich halten sich zusammen. This is really the condition. It's a condition, and that's the method. The method is if Chassidim are going to be together. We know that the Kviyas of this year is a very unusual Kviyas, maybe once in 20 years plus, that we have a Shona Muberes, and we have the difference between Kriyas HaTorah and Shabbos is Pesach, v'chulu v'chulu. Is we know the example about it, how possible to be together, is Poshet from Gimmul Tammuz itself. Here in Monsey, we didn't have this experience, but I believe you are going to the Oil, to 770, you have Minyonim. You have Minyonim reading Chukas, and you have Minyonim reading Korach. I myself was a few times there, and I never saw anybody fighting about it. It was very peaceful. It's a minyan for this, and a minyan for this, and everything was all right, because everybody understands that we are on the same direction, and we are going to achieve the same minyan. A minute, it's only a little example of how it's a possibility that even though that be'emes and the Yisem Shoves, nevertheless, it's a way how to put things together. It's therefore the wish of the Rebbe Tzemach Tzedek was, in his time, that Chassidim halten sich zusammen. And Baruch Hashem, in our generation, we are able to see how this particular wish taking place more and more from time to time. But obviously, we would like really to give a look on that, how we are just about the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu. But it's very important, this Inyan, to make sure that we'll be together. Because you have a will, you have a way. If you have if we want, this will be the case. And it's very important for ourselves, it's very important for our Bnei Bayis, for the children, that the children will see that the way the Lubavitch gate is with the Rebbe will, and even though it's not so easy to find the right method, but people putting koyach into finding the right Inyan. This is Bechlal, one of the Inyonim, was Medafremen from Gimmul Tammuz. Therefore, it's very much a big yashakoyach for all the Me'agenim, the Askonim, the Imgelait, which they put the event together, and they made it in the past also, and so many people were niskarev, and they were inspired when they came to this kind of Inyonim, these kind of occasions, and they saw the unity which you have, and in a way, soll sein Tage, wie sie darf zu sein, is therefore this is something which really brings a lot of chizuk for all of us. We mentioned once a while ago that it was I heard from one of the shluchim from Manash in around Worcester or so on that he's not alive anymore. One of the shluchim, the elderly shluchim. It was after Gimmul Tammuz, only a few years, and it was a rabbinical convention in his shtot. And obviously he was invited. Always he was very friendly with everybody, he went there. And it was sessions about Aleph and Beis. Later on in the break time, they were sitting together, and one of the not Hasidic Rabbonim came up to him, they are good friends, and they told him, Rabbi, what happened now with Lubavitch? You know, Moshiach, and you have people are here, people are in. What happened with the unity in Lubavitch? And he gave a look on him, the Lubavitch Shliach, and he told them, our dispute is greater unity from your unity. And the guy gave a look on him and he says, ihr seid so gerecht. You are so emesdike, so emes. Right? Is therefore, we da wissen der richtige emes, that all of us, especially Lubavitch, we really mean that mit an emes, and we really want that all the way through, with the ganze koiches and nefesh, so when the Ebshe should help that all of us will continue to go in Mirz Hashem, Echayil El Choil, and doing in Rebbe's Mivtzoim, Rebbe's Inyonim, and in the same time learning Rebbe's Torah, the Mamorim, the Siches, that you can see how many more people are getting inspired for all of this. And all of us together will be able to go together like one block to welcome Mashiach Tzidkenu and fulfilling the wish of the Rebbe Tzemach Tzedek, which the Rebbe himself repeated after when it was the Stalkus of the Rebbetzin. Later on, when it was the Matzoi Shabbos, the Rebbe spoke about it, that the Inyan that Chassidim will sich halten sich zusammen. And this is something which for us is very important. The Rebbe should help that how good things are, things should go even for better. And all the Inyanim which we have to upgrade, we upgrade them in Mirz Hashem, and make sure that all the Inyanim will sein kefia kavona in Ganzen, and all of us together again will welcome Mashiach Tzidkenu. L'chaim.
Ashreinu, Matoy Chalkeinu, Manoim, Umanoim, Umanoim, Goyrodeinu. Ashreinu, Ashreinu, Matoy Chalkeinu, Manoim, Umanoim, Goyrodeinu. Oh Maya, oh Maya, oh Maya, Yerushalayim. Oh Maya, oh Maya, oh Maya, Yerushalayim.
Kol ha'omer shmua mipi oimra yehiroya bal hashmua kilu ha'omer kenegdoi. Whenever a mimer is said, the Baal HaMimer, the Rebbe, is present with us. We will hear a mimer now, chazered by the editor of the popular Chassidus Muvera series, the Rav of Beis Levi Yitzchak and Pomona, Harav Moshe Gerari Shlita. Yeah,
Mama.
says Chukas HaTeira, the Alter Rebbe brings in this week's Likutei Torah in the Chassidische Parsha that the word Chukah is also Melashon Chakika. Chakika means engravement. What this means is that generally speaking, the Torah is either Torah Shebeksav or Torah Shebal Peh. Either it's the oral Torah or the written Torah. So Torah Shebal Peh is words. Words are separate from a person. And even Torah Shebeksav, that's written on a Diyah Gabi Aklaf, it's written ink that's written on a paper, on parchment, is the diyah, the ink, remains separate from the parchment. There's the ink and there's the parchment. It's two separate inyanim. You could separate between them. Whereas the inyan of chakika, engravement, is that it's one with the place that it's engraved in. There's no two separate things. The aisis chakika, the letters that are engraved into a stone, are one with the stone that they're engraved with. And the lashon of the Alter Rebbe is that chakika is minei obey. Minei obey means that it's obey. It's in the stone itself. You can't separate it from the stone. And also, it's minei. It's how do you create such a matzah, such a situation where there's words that are engraved in a stone? You have to take part of the stone away, and that creates that there's an engravement over here. So not only is the words one with the stone, the engravement also happens through the stone itself. Which what this means in Avodah is that the true way that a Yid is supposed to connect to Torah is not just that there's him and he learns Torah, but he's a separate thing from the Torah. Rather, a Yid is supposed to become mamish one thing with the Torah, totally united with the Torah, like Eisi Sachakika, Zeis Chukas HaTorah. And just like we said before, when you get to the engravement begashmis, when you engrave something begashmis, not only is the engravement one with the thing that it's engraved in, but it's also done through the thing which you engrave it in. It's the same thing as also in Avedas Ha'adam. When a person becomes one with the Torah, it has to come from him himself. It's not supposed to come from a psagilim ilamayla, some revelation from above. The person himself is supposed to create that he should become one with the Torah itself. A person could ask, this is a very tremendous high madrega, that a person should become isachid. Not only they should learn Torah and be immersed in Torah, but he should be mamish one with the Torah that he learns. How can we demand such an avodah from a regular person? How can we say that a regular person is zeis chukas HaTorah, he's supposed to become united with the Torah, mamish one mitzias with the Torah? So we can explain that we know that by the time of Matan Torah, the Eibishter said that Aseres HaDibros, and it says in Chazal that all the four ruchas ha'olam, all the four directions of the world, were screaming out the Aseres HaDibros. Now the Aseres HaDibros were engraved in the luchas, in a way of chakika, engravement. And when the Eibishter gave the Aseres HaDibros, it was payil, it affected the entire world. That's why the entire world screamed out the Aseres HaDibros. So the fact that the Eibishter gave us the Aseres HaDibros, which were chakukis, which were engraved in the luchas, and it affected the entire world at the time of Matan Torah, that gave the Nesinas Koyach, that gave the ability for every single Yid, B'chol HaDeiros, and all the generations, to be able to come to such a level by himself that he should connect to the Torah in such a way of chakika, of engravement. Even though it's taka very high madrega of Aveda, it's a davar gadol, like the lashon of the Rambam in the Get to Simcha, that it's a davar gadol, it's Aveda Gdeila, it's a very high madrega of Aveda, but it's something which we could befedish ask from every person, it's something which every person has the ability to do, because the Eibishter was already mamshich this Aveda in the entire world at the time of Matan Torah. Now the lashon of the pasuk is Zeis Chukas HaTorah, which means, literally, it means these are the rules, the laws of the Torah. And the Alter Rebbe discusses, l'cheira, it should have said, Zeis Chukas HaPara. Seemingly, the appropriate lashon should have been that these are the rules, the laws of the Para, of Para Aduma. Just like it says, Zeis Chukas HaPesach, about other things in the Torah, it says, Zeis Chukas HaPesach, these are the rules of the Pesach. Why does it say, Zeis Chukas HaTorah, implying that here we're talking about the entire Torah? So, the Rebbe explains that the entire purpose of Torah mitzvahs is that there should be an inyan of Ratzi V'Shuv. Ratzi V'Shuv means that a person should have Ratzui, that he should constantly be wanting to run away from this world. Ratzui means running. He should constantly trying to go higher and go l'mayla from this olam, go away from Gashmias and lift himself above the Gashmias of this world. And then Shuv, he has to actually remain down here and bring a lakus into this world, not run away from the world, bring the Eibishter down into this world. And there always has to be these two things at the same time, Ratzi and Shuv. And this is the entire Torah. The entire Torah is that a person should have a tenuah of Ratzi, should be running away from the world, and on Shuv, he should bring down a lakus into this world. And that's why it says when it gets to the Para Aduma, Zeis Chukas HaTorah, because in Para Aduma we see the concept of Ratzi V'Shuv is very evident, the concept of Ratzi V'Shuv. Because what was the Para Aduma? The Para Aduma was made out of ashes that was mixed with water. Ashes is an inyan that comes from fire. So there was fire and there was water. Fire is an inyan of Ratzi. Fire goes always upwards, which that resembles the idea of Ratzi. When someone is running away from Gashmis and he wants to become connected to the Eibishter, he wants to leave Elamaz and come connected to the Eibishter. Whereas water, the teva of water is that it goes downwards. So that's the inyan of shuv, to bring down the Eibishter into this world, down here lamata. So by the para aduma, by the fact that there was both fire and water, there was ashes and water, that resembles that the Aveda is ratzi v'shuv. And that's why it says zeis chukas ha-teira, because this is really the entire teira. The entire teira is all about the inyan of ratzi v'shuv. And we could add that this inyan, that the entire Torah is about Ratzav V'shuv, we also see from the fact that the Torah, the mitzvahs of the Torah are split into mitzvahs aseh and to mitzvahs leis aseh. And it's not just that the Torah is split into mitzvahs aseh and mitzvahs leis aseh. Even the Aseres HaDibros, the first two of the Aseres HaDibros were given to us in such a way. The first one of the Aseres HaDibros is Anei Chavaya Lekecha, which that is a positive commandment, that's a mitzvah aseh, and that's the shayrish for all the mitzvahs aseh in the Torah. And the second one of the mitzvahs of the Aseres HaDibros is La'iluch Halakim Acherim, which is a negative commandment that they shouldn't serve Avodah Zarah. That's the shayrish of all the mitzvahs leis aseh in the Torah. So the entire Torah is divided to mitzvahs aseh and mitzvahs leis aseh. And the inyan of mitzvahs aseh and mitzvahs leis aseh is also the inyan of Ratzei and Shuv. Because the inyan of a mitzvahs leis aseh means that a person has to stand hecher, he has to stand higher, he has to remove himself from certain inyanim of this world and transcend this world, go higher, remove himself, become holier, stand separate from certain inyanim in this world. Which that's the inyan of Ratzei, that a person should constantly stand in a way that he's trying to get out of this world, and he's standing hecher than the inyanim in this world. And the minyan of mitzvahs aseh is that you take a davar gashmi and you use it out for a mitzvah, and you bring a lakus, you bring the Eibishter into this world, the inyan of shuv. So the inyan of mitzvahs leisa, the inyan of mitzvahs aseh is the inyan of Ratzei v'shuv. Now, if we go more bepratius into the inyan of the para aduma, the truth is that we could see the inyan of Ratzei v'shuv not only by the fire together with the water, but in the fire itself, in the burning of the para itself, we can also see both Ratzei and shuv. In other words, b'pashtus, like we said before, and this is what it says in Likutei Torah, the burning of the para, the idea of fire, that resembles the inyan of Ratzei, because fire goes upwards. The shuv is only in the water that was added to the fire, the water that was added to the ashes. But the truth is that if we go even deeper, even in the burning of the pot itself, we could see not only Ratzui, not only the idea that a person should yearn and transcend, go higher than Gashmias, but we also see the inyan of Shuv, that we have to bring a lakus into this world, into Gashmias. Where do we see Ratzui v'Shuv? In the burning of the pot. So the burning of the pot contains a few inyan. First of all, there's the actual process of burning the pot. So the burning of the pot is the inyan of Ratzui, for two reasons. First of all, fire is, like we said before, fire constantly goes upwards, which that's the idea of Ratzui, that a person is yearning to go higher and higher. Besides for that, the burning of the pot is that you're taking the pot itself and elevating it, burning it and bringing it up, which is also inyan of Ratzui, taking something from this world and bringing it higher, leaving the restraints of this world. But besides for the actual fire, there's also the ashes that were left from the fire. The ashes were not burnt. The ashes had to be left, and that was the mitzvah, that there should be ashes. Which the fact that there had to be ashes that were left from the fire, that shows the inyan of shuv. Because what's the idea of ashes? That there's a davar gashmi here that's a part of the mitzvah, which is the inyan of shuv, of bringing a lakus, bringing godliness into this world, into gashmi. So even in the burning of the para, even in the ashes, we also have both the Ratzei and the shuv. And the shuv, when we bring the Eibishter down into this world, that's the ultimate kavanah. Because that's why we find that what actually made the tara of the person that was tamei in tumas meis, a person who was in contact with a dead body and became tamei, needed that they should pour on him and they should sprinkle on him the para aduma. So what part of the para aduma was sprinkled on him? The ashes of the para, not the fire of the para. The ashes of the para, which is we just said now, is the inyan of shuv. Because when we bring a lakus into Gashmias, we have the inyan of shuv. When we bring down the Eibishter into this world, that's able to take away any inyan of tumas meis. That's able to take away and remove the inyan of tumas meis. The idea of a tumah that comes from meis, the greatest tumah. And not only is bringing down the Eibishter into this world able to remove the inyan of tumas meis, but even more so, it's able to remove the cause, the siba, what brings to the inyan of tumas meis. What brings to the inyan of tumas meis? The fact that there's an inyan of misra rachman al-litzlan, inyan of death in this world. Chazal say that the para aduma was a tikkun for the inyan of the cheta egel. The para aduma was mechaper on the cheta egel. Cheta egel caused the inyan of misa. It was nigzad that many people should die because of the cheta egel. Came the para aduma and was mechaper on this inyan and something which brought to the inyan of misa. So we see from here that when we have the ashes of the para, which was like you just explained now, that's the inyan of shuv, bringing down the Eibishter into this world, is that's able to not only remove tumas meis from someone, but even more, it's able to actually remove the idea of misa itself, the siba, what brings the tumas meis, the inyan of misa itself. That the ultimate removal of misa is only going to be when Mashiach comes. Because even though we had the para aduma, but of course there still was an inyan of misa in this world. The ultimate inyan that there won't be, there won't be any inyan of mitzvah, that will be la'aseh level when Mashiach comes. But we know that the Eibishter creates every single thing in this world for a purpose, and that everything has something positive to it. So how can we say that when Mashiach comes, the whole union of Misa is going to disappear? If the Eibishter created a concept called Misa, that means that there's something positive to the concept also. It's not just purely a negative concept. So the beer is that Misa has two inyanim. Misa has the negative part of Misa, that Rahman al-Islam, someone ceases to exist and ceases to be in this world. But besides for that, Misa also is Payal and Aliyah. When someone, Rahman al-Islam, passes away from this world, his neshama goes higher and higher. There's an union of Aliyah. So even though La'asid Lavi, Misa is not going to be in this world, no people are going to die Rahman al-Islam anymore. It's going to be only good. It's only going to be people are going to stay alive. But the union of Aliyah that there is in Misa, that's going to continue to exist, La'asid Lavi. To explain a little bit more, we know what it brings a Chassidus, that every time a neshama goes from one madrega to the next madrega, in order for it to go to the next madrega, it has to totally erase everything that it had in the previous madrega, and only then is it susceptible to receive the great giluim, the great revelations that are in the higher madrega. When you're coming with your old madrega, it's a stira, it's a contradiction to be able to receive something that's so much greater. Which is also what we find in the Akdama Shari Yichud Ve'emunah, but the Alter Rebbe brings about Sheva Yibul Tzadik V'Kom. It says that a tzaddik has many aliyahs, but he also has many yeridas. Why does a tzaddik have to have the yeridas? Because the tzaddik constantly goes from one madrega to the next madrega, he goes higher and higher, and between each madrega, he has to, so to speak, forget everything that he had in the first madrega. Now it explains about the neshamas that are in Gan Eden, that are constantly going from one madrega to the next madrega. It says that when they go from one madrega to the next madrega, first of all, there's an inyan called Nahar Dinar. Nahar Dinar is to erase everything that they had in the previous madrega. And then there's something called the Amud. The Amud also erases everything that they had in the previous madrega, but not in a negative way. Only in a way that it makes them totally keli, it makes them totally susceptible to receive and to become included in the higher madrega. In other words, the taka takes away anything that's remained from the previous madrega, but only in a positive way, that it brings them up to the higher madrega. So when the Asid Lava Mashiach comes, the inyan of Misa, the negative part of Misa, the fact that we have to forget anything that we had till now, that's like Al-Derech the inyan of Nahar Dina, that's not going to exist anymore, because there's not going to be any negativity anymore. But the Aliyah that you have in Misa, the Amud, the fact that Misa is able to bring someone higher and higher, that's going to remain La'asid Lava. And the ikir is that should be take of Miyad Mamsh.
When I walked into this hall, it looked like a wedding, as many individuals mentioned that to us, without compromise. So I just want to thank all those who helped make this happen. It's a list, but it's a short list, but it's filled with heart and generosity. Our corporate sponsors, Mendy, Glick Accounting, and please thank these individuals if you know them, when you see them. Thank them for contributing and stepping up to creating an event for the community. Mendy Glick Accounting, Fortunate Jewels, Taurus Auctions with Yisrael Crawford, and many other anonymous sponsors. For those who've asked if they can donate, we've put a credit card machine sponsored by a fellow from Zalmi Raskin, and the organizers of the event, they should be mentioned regardless of a way to donate for their great sincerity and their contribution to the community here. But if you'd like to give a gift, you can approach Yehuda Zaltzman, Levi Baruch, Hershel Rosenblum, or Shalom Rabin, for they continue to take their hearts and spread the love and spread their commitment each time in a much greater way. Thank you. It's on the hilltops of a small but vibrant community, a group of young businessmen gather each morning at 6 a.m. to learn a shir chassidus with their mashpia, Rav Yossi Lowenbein. And following the shir and shachris, Rabbi Lowenbein inspired his community to open their hearts and their wallets to those from Eretz Yisrael who are in desperate need. So they organize a breakfast, and each morning tens of individuals from Eretz Yisrael and from other places come to the shul, and they get the support that they need. This is an individual whose inspiration has touched many lives in Chassidishkeit and Chesed. Harav Mashpia of 110 Chassidim, Rav Yossi Lowenbein.
L'chaim, l'chaim. "28 years since Gimmul Tammuz," as Rabbi Nash just said, must mean that after Farbrengen today, every person individually will have to be able to look at himself and say that they're an entirely new person. There was a rabbi, his name was Rabbi Herbert Wiener. In the early years, he came into the Yechidus of the Rebbe, and the Rebbe spoke to him about Ayeka. Famous story, the Alter Rebbe. There was a general in the Russian army who wanted to ask the Alter Rebbe about Ayeka. What does it mean that the Eibishter had to ask Adam Rishon, Ayeka, where are you? And the Alter Rebbe Beruach HaKodesh told him, it was at that man's birthday, told him when a person is so-and-so years old, like 55 years old, and Hashem comes to him and asks him, what's he doing in this world? What are you doing? Ayeka is a question. It's an existential question. It's a question the Eibishter is asking each and every person. And this is what the Rebbe told Rabbi Herbert Wiener in the Yechidus. And the Rebbe said that he has to make a real cheshbon nefesh and ask himself, where is he holding all these years? The Rebbe wanted from him that he should be machres berabim, that he's frum and he's orthodox. His community was not so religious. He later on wrote back a letter to the Rebbe where he writes in the letter, he asks a bracha from the Rebbe, and the Rebbe sends him another letter, and the Rebbe said, what ended up happening with my words, what I discussed with you, Ayeka, where are you holding? So he wrote back another letter to the Rebbe describing what he thinks. And Rabbi Chaim Dalfin brings this letter in English in his Sefer. It's a fascinating letter. He writes back to the Rebbe on the bottom, Nun Beis, P.S. I want to take the chutzpah to ask the Rebbe Ayeka. I want to ask the Rebbe, where are you holding? The Rebbe wrote back a letter in English, a fascinating letter, just paraphrase what the Rebbe said. The Rebbe wrote to him that Bam is a good question, because there's two types of people in this world, an Adam Klali and Adam Prati. Adam Prati is a simple, regular person. He has a work, he has his job. He either makes a cheshbon nefesh by Krish Mishalamita, or he makes a cheshbon nefesh Leil Shishi, or he makes a cheshbon nefesh Yom Kippur Katan, or he makes a cheshbon nefesh in Yom Rayim, Elul. And he's always constantly looking at what he's doing with his chinuch, with his kids, with his Torah mitzvahs, and he decides how he has to get better. But Adam Klali, how does he make a cheshbon nefesh? The whole day he's dealing with the klal. The whole day he's dealing with people. How does he make a cheshbon nefesh? And then the Rebbe quoted two Maimer Chazal in English. He said, Chazal say, "Shedvarim yotzim lev nechnasim in alev." Words that come from the heart enter the heart. And Chazal also say, "Shekol mi sheyesh b'yirah shmayim dvarav nishmoyim." Whoever has the fear of heaven on him, his words are listened to. So the Rebbe said, if this is true, that whoever the words come from a person's heart, they enter the person's heart. And if a person has yirah shamayim, then his words are listened to. I have to ask you, what happened to my words? Ayeka. The Rebbe turned it back to him, and he said he made a radical change in his life by the fact that the Rebbe asked him back. The Rebbe told him, what happened to my words? The Rebbe put the responsibility on him. If for me to answer my Ayeka, I have to know where you're holding. It's 28 years at Gimmul Tammuz. We all have to answer the Rebbe's Ayeka through answering our own Ayeka. We all have to ask ourselves a real question. In Chav Ches Nissen, when the Rebbe said, I did everything I can and I give it over to you, every single person got shooken up for a minute, for a second, maybe even longer. But every single person felt the same thing that a lady felt when she went by dollars and she told the Rebbe, Rebbe, we expected you to do it. And she told the Rebbe, I want my son back. And the Rebbe said, I have spoken very clearly. It's up to you, you, and you, and you. And she told the Rebbe, no, we are relying on you, Rebbe. And the Rebbe said, if I am your rabbi, I have spoken clearly. It's up to you, 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 and you. Every single person, the Rebbe looked at the person. Now, any person in this room, including myself, we have to ask ourselves the question, when we wake up in the morning after Moedani, do we think individually, do I think I'm going to bring Mashiach today? The Rebbe said, I'm giving it over to you. The Rebbe said, what I'm saying is that even you're going to put it back on me, I'm telling you that you have to do it. Is a person asking himself this question every morning? We're about to watch a video of the Rebbe where the Rebbe says that every single person is a shliach in this generation. So if you're in this room, or if you heard of the Rebbe, if you have any shaykhs to Yiddishkeit, that means you're a shliach. Do you ask yourself in the morning after Moida Ani, how am I going to fulfill the Rebbe's shlichus? This is a question we each and every one of us have to ask ourselves. This is not a question that it's spectatorship, that we're coming to a Farbrengen and we're sitting and eating a meal and we're going to all get together and listen. This is a tremendous responsibility that the Rebbe gave each and every one of us. Because the Rebbe said, me and you are going to bring Mashiach. So if you think that the Rebbe was just talking, then it's just like the Rebbe said multiple times. If I'm talking and nothing comes, Ma'aseh B'Poel, then it's Dvarim B'Teilim. But we all know the Rebbe wasn't talking Dvarim B'Teilim. So the question is, are we going to ask ourselves interactively? Are we going to change internally? Are we going to listen to the Rebbe talk as if the video that we're about to watch, are we going to listen to the Rebbe as he's only talking to me? I'm the only person in this room. Or am I going to look at everybody around and superficially and nothing's going to demand me to change? Is the Rebbe talking Dvarim Yetzim and Alev? Then am I going to change tomorrow morning and say, I am the one who's going to bring Mashiach? In 1990, Pashas Koirach, the Rebbe said that everybody has to become a Magid Shir. Look at the Sikha. Everybody, man, woman, and children. You have to become a Magid Shir. That's the only way. If you look in the last few years, 1989, 1988, 1989, 1990, 1991, 1992, how many times did the Rebbe say over and over again, every person in the generation is a shliach? You go to your job, you're a rabbi, or you're just starting to learn Chassidus. It doesn't matter. You're a shliach, and the Rebbe expects you to bring Mashiach. He expects you to do it. But if you just listening to the Rebbe as if it's another story, then how are you really going to make a change? Do you know that in 2 days is Ayom Yom, Vav Tammuz, where it says that Minik Chabad is to give tzedakah by every single mitzvah? Do any of us do this? Did we ever hear the Rebbe say this? Are we living life superficially or are we living life internally? Do we understand that the Rebbe is not going to do it for us? He's only going to do it for us if we're bottled to the Rebbe, if we listen to him and decide to start to do it our own. If we're not all going to internally change. If tomorrow morning we're not going to all see ourselves as shluchim of the Rebbe, no matter what our job is, if we're not going to see that the responsibility lies in us, then how are we going to change? In Parshas Koirach Tov Shenun, the Rebbe said then by the Farbrengen, that a person has to look at himself his whole life. Chetziv chayev, chetziv zakai. Right now, at this moment, try it. You have to look at yourself that up until what you did till today, you're 50% good and 50% bad. And what you're going to do at this moment is going to bring Mashiach. And then you have to also think to yourself that the whole entire world, everything, all relies on you, what you're going to do this moment. Imagine the energy of how you're going to give tzedakah. Imagine how you're going to look at your child. Imagine how you're going to look at another person. If you take the Rebbe's words for real, if you understand the b'shaita chada, b'riga chada, in one moment to do tshuva, in one moment to change, could only happen if there's a tresel, if there's a shiver, if there's goosebumps, if it's interactive, if you realize that the Rebbe is only talking to you. You're the only one who exists. If you don't see that you're the only one who exists, you'll never make a change. So when the Rebbe was talking and he said it's dvarim b'teilim, it's lo yinaga v'lo yipaga, it's because we're not listening. We don't believe that we're the ones who are going to bring it. But the Rebbe said, if I am your rabbi, I have spoken to you clearly. Each and every one of you in this room, and anybody who has a shaykhus with the Rebbe is a shliach and must bring Mashiach lamata masar tvachim l'chaim.
Jeder Ried darf massiv sein, in sein Pulis Beelo, und massiv sein mit der Hakore Brura und a Idee Brura, als ist ein Schliach von der Lekim. Und nechet massiv sein, der Kol Hoinyonim Hamedubori, also langkommen zu jederen und zu allen Jeden, und jeder soll gleich anheben, die Schlichus, sei benegehe, le Shamayim Apostes Amayonis, und sei benegehe le Bris, in Apostes Atela Vedu Gmilas Chasodim, anheben dich von der Bote Chabad, v'chol Hoinyonim, Amurim, und tonnen der Malem, in der Nefen von Mesi, v'heilig, v'eir, bis le mato masora tfochim.
I just started a new job in IBM, and Hey Tevis comes along, and the Rebbe says on that day that everybody should be like a shliach. I didn't know what did the Rebbe mean, everybody should be a shliach. Maybe he means that I gotta quit my job and like stop becoming a campus shliach or something like that. I wrote into the Rebbe, should I give up my job for IBM? What is it that the Rebbe wants? And the Rebbe like underlines it on the answer and with a big, just one word answer, Lama. Why do you have to give up your job in IBM? I want you to stay in those things and be my shliach.
Madishem mitzad de gever kinonu. Als kommt und was für einmal mit dem Masse kommt, soll dorten Schmäh von dem Mäbischten, soll dorten machen, dass in der Leben soll sein Lischake, bis wir Schachanti beseichen, ohne mit dich, in seine eigene Dame ist und der noch gleich, al besser mit Bachut.
And that was what I ended up doing. I stayed in IBM. I had a very, very matzliachtik career.
So if you would give a warm round of applause for Mr. Moshe Rappaport from IBM.
Well, I felt all the time that I was doing shlichus. In other words, I would make speeches all over the world. Your desktop or on your wall, or you're going to be wearing and so on that are AI-driven. But the real, all through my career, I would write to the Rebbe what was going on, what I was doing.
Going to be secure? How are we going to manage the access control?
Top people, CEOs, politicians, famous journalists from all over the world came to find out what IBM was doing in research. And I get to meet all these people with my yarmulke, with my beard, and so on and so forth. The Jewish people came over to me, and I was actually a shliach in that sense.
Bei Ofzens sanctioned Hong Kong competition. You certainly know that now Hong Kong is a visiting place for many Jews from several countries. And then you can influence that during their visit in Hong Kong, when they are returning to their homes, they will bring with them additional Yerushalayim. And that will be your business also.
אני במקצועי נייבל ארכיטקט, יש לי מפעל בארץ גדול, ובזכות ברכתו מלפני שנתיים במכתב שכבודו כתב לי, שקיבלתי ממנו, קיבלנו עבודה גדולה מאוד, $2 מיליון, בצבא ארצות הברית, חודש אחרי המכתב. חודש אחרי קבלת המכתב קיבלנו את העבודה הכי גדולה בחיינו מהצבא האמריקאי.
ואיזו התחלה גדולה, ובאמת יש בכך יכול לעשות כפליים.
אני מקווה, אני משתדל, והרבה עובדים שלי שלא היו יראי שמיים, כשזה קרה, חזרו בתשובה. וזה הודות לכבוד הרב.
עדיין הולך להוסיף עוד יותר בירושלים שלו, כאילו שלבחור ירו ויעשו כליך על כל פנים החצי ממנו. כל ישראל ערבים זה בזה, הלחץ כמה וכמה איבר מצרממודי ומצובי, צי עניין כלכלו וסדורכם בקום תיאנר פרנסה. Oder wer darüber kommt jener Covid, was es soll nicht sein, muss das ausgenutzt werden, bechayus und besimcha, mit und besever ponim Jofes, als mekarev seiner Jiddischkeit zu limo da Teire vekiyim ha-mitzvahs, vorem ha-meise hu ha-yiker.
Major exhibition that we exhibited at was in Brussels. It was a major upholstery fabric international exhibition. Part of our display was knowing that if a Jew came in there, he knew he would get caught and me asking him if he could put on film. The exhibition is going to be Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Rosh Hashanah was coming up Monday night. To come in for one half a day on Monday exhibition, it's a little bit crazy. On the other hand, I knew the Rebbe wanted we should always be at the exhibition, so we're going. Rabbi Chadikov let me know that the Rebbe suggested that we put up a sign at the beginning of the show that due to the Sabbath, we're going to be closed at Friday 2:30. So the customers, they'll know in the beginning of the show they should come into you right away. At about 1:30, suddenly I see a gentleman walking up and down past our stand where there's thousands of people walking. But I see he keeps looking at the sign and he's asking, tell me, what is this closing the Sabbath? It's an international exhibition. What's this closing Rosh Hashanah? I said, where are you from, sir? He says, Ich bin a Polische. So I started dealing with a Jew. I said, how about putting on film? He looks at me like I went crazy. He says, film? Who believes in all of this? I don't believe in God. I don't believe in anything. He says, Ich bin durchgegangen Hitler. I went through Hitler. I never put on film, he says. I said, my friend, I understand you 100%. Once in your lifetime, you didn't have a bar mitzvah, you said. You'll be able to say, you're right, God wasn't right to you, and you had a bar mitzvah.
Da viele mehr Pommen reden einmal und das zweiten Mal. Und sof kol sof ist eine sichere Sache in der Rufechet, ja geht Masos. Und mit der Neffen Hamassen besever Ponem Jofes ist eine sichere Sache Masos, als gefunden in dem zweiten Nieden. Als Loch, der zweite wird echt werden noch jüdischer. Wir gewähren bis demol.
He took off his jacket and we put him on film. The minute he said Shema Yisrael, he broke down and started crying. He says, Ich kenn nicht. He was holding us out, Ich kenn nicht. And he sat down and he didn't know what to do, how to thank us.
Und demolte mehr eine Schnee im Hawaii, als wir zukommen in seine Unione, wo mit Karer gewesen, Ben Jochis zu dem Melech. ist auch verstandig der Gedel Hasimcha und Hanachas Ruach, was mir peilt bei den Eltern, ist auch eine sichere Sache, seht der Vater Dankbarkeit, wenn sie tun, für dem, was dort peilt gewesen, unter dem Kiro, bechol ha-mistarech leisai beruch neisai begashmius.
You can imagine how we felt. Business, we didn't do that much, but we knew what we came for, and we knew we were going to have a good year.
This production is made possible through the generosity of the members of the GEM Foundation.
Fine. Better, right? So we stay here.
It's much better.
Yeah. L'chaim, l'chaim. L'chaim l'bracha to everyone here. There are a few individuals who are both in heaven and on earth, well grounded in this world, yet able to communicate deep Hergeshim. Rabbi Paltiel is a shliach in Port Washington, and he's together with us tonight as a fellow shliach. He is a rabbi of rabbis. He guides many shluchim across the country and beyond. Please welcome the shliach of the Rebbe, director of Chabad of Port Washington, Harav Shalom Paltiel Shlita.
L'chaim Midden, l'chaim Chsidim, l'chaim Briden, l'chaim. L'chaim. The Elam sagen l'chaim. It's not the speeches, it's Chsidische Farbrengen. We should all say l'chaim, l'chaim. So, there were many years that Chassidim had a hard time playing music at a day like this. Leidach, Chassidim HaMachush Hareach and Lepel Chassidim made it into, not a Yom Tif, but the Hilula. Hilula is a Yom Tif. How do you reconcile the two feelings? Chedvet Kiev Misitra Da, with Chassidim, Asherim Matev Chalkeinu, we're the luckiest people in the world. And Leidach, the most broken, the most orphaned. There's a very nice letter that was sent in Tufshin Yud Aleph, right after Kabbalas HaNasiyas, the early years. The young Rebbe, and the Rebbe didn't dress like a Rebbe, he's this from Amol, and the young Rebbe, so there's a letter sent by a Choshev Chassid, a big Chassid, Abitcha Golden, who was much older than the Rebbe, to his friend in Australia, Reb Zalman Sarabransky, and he's describing the new Rebbe. So I was the letter, it's printed now in the book on Rabbi Sol Jacobson, and he writes, Ein lecha musag hagishmak kukna von Rebbe. He said, you can't imagine how delicious it is to look at the Rebbe. Royin afreiliche zu brochen ish eliki. You see a joyous and yet broken man of God. Ish eliki, a man of God, is broken. Till the Gala Shlema Ozim Elis Chekpino. Until then, if you're Ish eliki, you feel the tzara of every yid, the shchinte begalus, etc. It's a brochen yid. That's what it means, Lebedik Yid. Leidach, a Yid, lep bitachen, the Eibush is with us every second. And a freilich, and it goes hand in hand. And that's perhaps part of the spirit of tonight, is music. And it's gorgeous. To put this in another angle, I attended a wedding some years back, the first Long Island Shluchim wedding. I would say about 15 years ago, the senior Shluch of Long Island, our boss, Rabbi Tuvia Teldin, married off his oldest son, Mendy, in Crown Heights, and all the shluchim came. And in today we have 50 shluchim on Long Island. At the time, maybe there were 20, 30. And it was in the Olateda, the big hall. Half the room were Lubavitch Chassidim and black hats, and half the room were Long Islanders. And it was a big day for us. We were celebrating our head shliach's first wedding. So I'm standing there by the chuppah after the badekin. We know Chassidish badekin is very intense, a lot of tears in the chuppah. And I overhear this couple talking, this couple from Long Island. The wife says to the husband, honey, I never saw such a serious wedding in my life. And it wasn't a compliment. I don't know the people, I don't say anything. Fast forward 4 hours later, they're both Agishvitz, they're on the dance floor, they're having the greatest time in their life, first time they ever celebrated joy without the trimmings of the Elam HaSheker. And they meet by the mechitza in the middle, and I hear them talking, and the wife says to the husband, honey, I never saw such a happy wedding in my life. So I turned around and I said, I'm sorry that I'm going to be nosy, but I heard both sides of the conversation. I'm going to recommend the two sides of the same coin. You see, if a wedding is random and it's meaningless, it's not so happy, and it's not so serious, it's nothing. It's part of Nishtahin. We'll try it, we'll see what happens. If we understand that this is the purpose of their neshama coming down Lamata, and Palga the Gufa, and they're coming together, etc. It's very awesome and serious. And by the same token, it's joyous. You might say, we're not ready yet to make Gimmul Tammuz into a chasana. Not yet, very soon. But Hilula is the zicher You walk the room among Chassidim, Yom HaGodel V'Haneira, this is a day, in a sense, the Freisen Kriya. And Leidach, Chassidim are sitting and we're singing, and we're broken, it's Freilach. There's no one luckier. As the Rebbe said many times, the Gaguyim is Benava B'Miktsas. How do we satiate our loss, and which is not really a loss because he's with us even more than before, and will be with us B'Gashmis any second when the Gula Shlema. But the Rebbe says the Gaguyim, the longing, that itself creates and satiates. Friends, Begita Cook, the Flab mit der Zeit, Pashas Chukas, the Stalkos was Motzei Shabbos, going into Sunday Pashas Chukas. We're now Pashas Chukas. Pretty much Gimmul Tammuz every year flirts with Pashas Chukas. Haloi Dovaru, it's awesome to me, the amount of remozim for the concept of his kashrus to Nasi Hador. In this Parsha and Rashi, we all know Rashi is a Chassidish Sefer, as any true Sefer is. But, and you have Inyanim of Chassidus, Inyanim of Nasi Hador, etc. throughout in various Rashis. I don't know of any Parsha that has it anywhere near Parshas Chukas. And related directly Gimmul Tammuz, Der Shazach, Mis Tzadikim Mechaper, is Parshas Chukas. And then we have Vayidaber Ha'am Belakimu B'Meisha, Zokt Rashi, Hushva, Vayidaber Ha'am Belakimu B'Meisha, Hushva, Eved Lekeinei. It's the Chassidische word. The Rashi in Chumash, Pshuta Shal Mikra, that it says, Vayidaber Ha'am Belakim B'Meisha. Hello, Hushva, Eved Lekeinei. Belakim B'Meisha, it's the same thing. This is a Spitz Chabad. Then you have a third one, if that's not enough, the famous one, Vayishlach Yisrael, Malachim, B'Mokem Acher, the Tola Ashlichas B'Meisha, V'Eshlach Malachim B'Bekdemis. That what? That here it says that the Yidden sent the messengers to Sichein. And elsewhere in Dvarim, it says that it was sent by Moshe himself, says Rashi. The two psukim go hand in hand, Zeneil v'Zepeseach, one opens, one closes, to teach us. Moshe hu Yisrael. Moshe is Yisrael. Yisrael ain't Moshe. Hello? Nasi Ador, Kechol Ador, Shahanasi hu Akol. Four Lashenis of Skashas on the highest level. And finally, this is the four that I noticed. I don't know any other Parsha in Chumash that has anything like this. That the famous Shiras Habeir, Oz Yosher Yisrael, Shiras Habeir, that Rashi says, that why is Moshe not mentioned? Because Loka de Habeir, it's like a beautiful Shira, they thank the Eibishter, but because he was punished by the Be'er, therefore he's not mentioned in the Shira. Says Rashi, notice that Hashem himself is also not mentioned in the Shira. They're praising Hashem, but he's not mentioned by name. Says Rashi, Moshe Lamelech, analogous of a king who makes a party. And he says, let me see the guest list. Is my friend invited? And if not, I'll stay home. If my friend is there, I'm there. If my friend's not invited, I wish you luck. I'll send you a michtav bracha, but I'm not showing up. And therefore, this Shira doesn't mention Moshe, doesn't mention the Eibishter. Friends, I'm going to share with you one of my favorite stories of the Rebbe. And the reason I love this story is because, not just because it involves somebody who I believe lives in Monsey. Michal Chazan, he lives in Monsey. Is he here tonight? It's one of my favorite stories. The reason is because he's here. Huh? Not yet. I'll wait. Because it's a story that brings home that we're all connected, those who saw, those who didn't see. That he grew up, as many of you might know, I don't know if you people know him, he grew up in a frumis Svardische Mishpacha in a place called Gibraltar. It's a faraway country. If you want to go to nowhere, you go to Gibraltar, next to Spain over there, Morocco. It's a small little country on its own, on a mountain, everyone knows the Rock of Gibraltar. In his Mishpacha, there were Chachamim, Svardish Chachamim, going back generations. And then he was inspired of Tichsidis through Rab Shmuel Lu in England, and he started learning Tanya. He ended up in Morristown. I heard from him that he was close to Rabbi Lech Tzvibel Olav Shalom, the Zayde of there was a Yechaz de Maimer, Betuf Tam, a Shekeach, I don't know if he's still there. And so he says that one year he went home for Pesach, And then after Pesach, he's supposed to get back on the plane the next day to go back to yeshiva. He learned in Marston. He had a mishigas. Before he gets on a plane, he needs a bracha from the Rebbe. I'm not going to tell you we all had that, but that was him. So he calls up Maskiris. Rabbi Yemen Klein all of a sudden answers the phone. And he says, my name is Michal Chazan from Gibraltar. Please give over a zettel that I'm taking a flight from Gibraltar to New York with a stopover in London. I need a bracha. Rabbi Klein says, not a problem. Gets on the plane. He lands in London a few hours later. There's a stopover, and he decides he needs another bracha for the second leg of the trip. And there's no cell phones. You get online, there's a payphone, you throw in some coins, a credit card, whatever it is. Binyamin Klein answers the phone. He says, this is Michal Chazan, and he's about to ask for a bracha. Klein says to him, are you the guy who called here a couple of hours ago? Because I have a message from the Rebbe. He says, really? He says, yeah. He says, I went in, and I had it settled that said Chazan is asking a bracha for the trip. And the Rebbe looked up at me and he said, was macht die Schwester? Michal said that, it was then the beginning of his journey to be a real chassid. I guess that journey, we're all on that journey to become a real chassid, and we all have a Yetzer Hara. And Yetzer Hara started telling him, it must be a case of mistaken identity, because why would the Rebbe ask about my sister? My sister's not a Lubavitcher. She lives in Gibraltar. She's a Svardische, young married woman. She never met the Rebbe. She never wrote to the Rebbe. She's not really so interested in the whole thing. So maybe, there's a lot of chazans in the phone book. And the other side, the Chassidish voice said, what do you mean? Hello, it's a Rebbe. So he said, I'll try to find out. So he starts to call his mother. There's no answer. He calls his sister. He calls his mother. He can't get through to anybody. And then it's about a half hour later, he has to take the second flight. So he gets on the plane. He forgets the whole story. It's a long flight from London to New York. He lands in JFK, takes a taxi to 770. He marches right into Maskiris. He says, Rabbi Klein, my name is Michal Chazan. Please put in a zettel that I arrived safely and thank you for the brachas. Within 5 minutes, the Bachrim are running around 770. Where's Chazan? Klein is looking for him. Those who are old enough to remember when they were running around chasing you in 770 to go see Klein, you knew that you got an answer or something. He runs into Maskiris. Rabbi Klein looks at him and he's not happy. He says, I went in, I put your zettel on the pile. I happened to be going in with a pile of, they went a few times a day. Your zettel's right on top. I put it down and I walk out. That's my job. The Rebbe looks up to me, like not so happy, and the Rebbe says, Ich hab schon gefragt, was macht die Schwester? I already asked once, how's the sister? So now he's taken aback. He starts to make phone calls. He finally reaches his mother. He says, how's Esti? I think her name is Esti. His mother starts to cry. I didn't want to tell you. I didn't want to bother you. You're in yeshiva. How's Esti? She needs a miracle to survive. I said, what? She was fine. Everything's good. Yeah, but she was pregnant in her 8th month. The baby came out early. With all the NICUs, with God's help, she'll be fine. We still need a capital tillim, but it'll be okay. But she's fighting for her life. She lost a lot of blood, transfusions, and this and that. It's not a good situation. We need a miracle. In fact, you know what? You're in New York. Go get a bracha. There's a Svardish Yidden, they have Emunas Tzadikim, very strong. He says, absolutely, I'm right here in the office. He writes a zettel, he gives it in. Within 5 minutes, or shortly thereafter, a bracha came out. I think the Rebbe said they should give a certain amount of tzedakah. And of course, the bracha was mekuyim. Slowly, she was in serious ICU. But within a couple of weeks, she's already home and recuperating. So he picks up the phone to call his sister. He hasn't spoken in a few weeks. And they're talking like a brother and a sister. Was machzor, shalom aleichem. Mazel tov for the baby. Mazel tov that you're alive. That's also a nice thing. And in the conversation, he says to her, yes, you have a big zachut. You have a big merit. The Rebbe asked for you twice. She had no idea. Suddenly over the phone, he hears her sobbing. Sobbing, she's shaking loud. And he says, Esti, what happened? Makara, relax, what's going on? Takes her a few minutes to relax. She says, Michal, how did the Rebbe know? She says, I don't know, it's above my pay grade. That's his job, he's a Rebbe. He says, I'm going to tell you how he do. He says, they're wheeling me into the ICU. I'm losing blood. I'm in and out of consciousness. I hear the doctors talking. We're losing her. Code red, code blue, code this, all kind of codes. I knew it's not a good situation. And I knew, even though I hacked you and I teased you about your black hat and your Rabbeinu Tam and all this, and the Nusach HaSiddur, I laughed at you with the whole Rebbe thing, but I knew that I needed a bracha from the Rebbe right about now. So I turned to Ima, who's next to the stretcher, that she should get hold of you to get the bracha. And I start to talk, and the voice doesn't come out. I'm too weak. Literally, I'm voiceless. And Ima calms me down. Shh, relax. Shh, not a time to get excited. But I'm paying attention. I hear again, code this, code red, Meleft. And I know I'm in and out of contact. We're losing her. I need that bracha. So again, I turn around to Ima, and I'm trying with every last kayach to talk and communicate. Reach out to Michal, get a bracha. The voice will not appear. And Ima says, I forbid you to speak. Whatever you want to tell me, you'll tell me tomorrow. Right now, you got to rest and relax. What am I going to do? I lay down on the stretcher. And I remember the one time you twisted my arm to learn with you Perek Tanya. And you learned with me Perek Beis. And you taught me in Perek Beis that what is a Rebbe? It's not just a big tzaddik. But this is Reish B'nai Yisrael, the head of all the neshamas, and in every generation, all the neshamas are connected to the head. I lay down on the stretcher and I said, Rebbe, if you're the head and I'm part of the body, you feel me, give me a bracha. That's how we knew. I have such a geschmack in this story because you talk about people, you talk about 28 years after Gimmul Tammuz, you're talking about half the room wasn't even born, and another half of the other half wasn't involved. And you say, this is your day, this is your Rosh Hashanah Li'Iskashrus. And a person says, Mi ani umani, who am I? What do I have to do with this whole picture? Comes along this story. If the Rebbe could feel this woman in Gibraltar, Ma'ala hala name of the Mishamish, the Reish feels the guf. And the beauty of this story is, someone who never met the Rebbe, I don't think she became a Lubavitcher Chassid, by the way. Not necessarily, the story has to have a Ayid is shaykh to the Nasi Hadar, no matter who he is or she is. And another beauty to the story, that sometimes the voice, sometimes you go to the oil and you want to communicate and you don't know what the voices doesn't come out, you don't know what to say, you're not sure how to communicate, you're not sure what to say. And we tell you there's no need to say, just lay down, close your eyes and know that this is your Nasi Hadar. The Rebbe said in the video, quoting the Baal Shem Tov, Helike Baal Shem Tov, that every Yid is a Ben Yachid to the Eibishter. Baal Shem Tov taught not just a Ben Yachid, not just a child of the Eibishter, Bonim Atal Hashem Lekechem, it's a pasuk befurish. But a Ben Yachid, Hanel Leizik Knusse, each Yid is like an only child born in an old age. I want to suggest tonight that tzaddikim, Daimim Lebeinam, tzaddikim work in the same way as the Eibishter. To a Rebbe, to Nasi Adar, every Yid is tired like a child, like an only child. The Rebbe writes in Igros Kodesh that when we say, Hamalamed is ben Chaveri Teira Ki'ilu Yolde, if you teach someone Teira, it's as if. Yolde, when it comes to Rebbe and Chassid, which really means every Yid, it's Yolde Mamish. This is not a psa. Chassidish Hergish that somebody said after hours of drinking mashke. This is something that Rebbe wrote in Igros Kodesh in more than one place. In the inspiration that was said earlier by one of the mashpiyim from Pomona. If I stop for a second and I think, Yolde Mamish, and tzaddikim work in the way of their maker. This is each of our day. Let's not just generalize it, but let's personalize it. My son, I have a son, Mendel, who taught me this when he was 8 years old. I took him to the oil for his birthday. We have a minhag in our family. By the birthdays, we take the child to the oil alone, either my wife or myself or both of us. Special trip to the oil. It's not such a big Mercedes Neves, about a 45-minute drive. And the kids look forward to it, and this is chok v'lo yaveh. It's personal. So I take Mendel, Baruch Hashem, today. He's a shliach in the town near where we live. He's 8 years old. It's late at 10 o'clock at night. Take him to the oil, just me and him. Place is relatively empty. And I schreibt that settle, the 8-year-old kid. And he's writing like a real chassid, like an ältere chassid. He's putting his hand and he's blocking. And he schreibt. And I need to know what it says. I'm a nosy kind of guy, as some of you know. I'm curious, and I'm trying to find out, and I go from this side and from that side, and finally I get a good angle. So steht da so in big Oisius, het Kiddush Levana Oisius. Rebbe, Heint is the Yemeledes von einem von den Chassidim. Das ist mir, Mazel Tov. For me, it was Psahir Tshuva. You know, we think big Chassidim, the Rebbe is so big, thousands of Chassidim, B'chol Katzei Tevel. Really, all the Yidden today are affected. Ganz Yiddishkeit, Elam HaTeira is affected by the Rebbe, V'chulu, and the whole world. I mean, Hoylech, V'koivish, even Lahavdil Goyim, best-selling books, going down in history like a Maimonides-type figure. Comes again, a 8-year-old child, and he says, Rebbe, Mazel Tov, today is your lucky day to know that each of us is a Ben Yachid, an only child. The truth is that the Baal Shem Tov says that everyone is a Ben Yachid. How could you have on 20 million Ben Yachids? So the Eibusha can beweise them, but the truth is that even us mere mortals, to a parent, every child is an only child. The saying goes, you're only as happy as your least happy child. Frierdiker Rebbe says, there's no walls in the heart. If you have 5 children, 10 children, it's not like each one gets 20% of the heart, each one gets the whole heart. And if one has Absura Teva, your heart overflows with love and joy. If one has a difficult day or a difficult situation, you can't function, you can't sleep at night. If this is true about you and I, mere mortals, a Rebbe, it's Ish Aliki. It's a Neshama Datzilas, whatever we know what a Rebbe is and we don't know. When he says that every Yid is B'nai Yechidei, and Tzadikim Deimim Lebeiram. So I want to suggest something which is not so popular at Farbrengens. Ufeib Ma'yidin. I was sitting yesterday with Rabbi Elazar, the chief rabbi of Russia. Chassidus Yid, Chol HaDeis. But doing what you do by Chassidus Farbrengen, telling everybody how they're no good. There's a whole bunch of Chavrim in Shtraimlach. They all came from Ashdod to be here for 2 days to come to the Rebbe. They should get medals. They left their families. And these are all guys at Shemona Levushim, you know what I mean? These are guys who grew up in different courts, and today they're learning Chassidus, the whole thing, the whole 9 yards, and they flew from Ashdod, and he's busy convincing them that, you're lucky they let you in. Which I know that's the Sprach by Chassidim. And I look up to Betel, Mata Lamaila, big time, but I humbly suggested that it's old-fashioned. And since I have the mic tonight, I want to say to every Yid in this room, and every Yid is a chassid, you are the only child. It was mentioned earlier. Gimmul Tammuz, whatever it means, this neshama, this giant neshama that the Eibusha created, to be the Nasi of Der Hashvi, and to usher in the Gula Shlema, and to conquer the world, and all the other things you could say. You want to know who's critical to him? You. Each one is indispensable. A child is indispensable. An only child is indispensable. This is my Gimmul Tammuz. If you went to the oil, you're going to go again. Of course, we're going with trepidation. But I want to make a suggestion to go in and recognize there's a simcha b'am Reb. Anybody here a father? Anybody in the room a father? You have kindalach Baruch Hashem, your kids walk in, do you feel simcha? Even if you didn't see them in a while, if you didn't see them in 5 minutes, I don't know, I'm a sensitive guy. If I didn't see my kids in more than 4 minutes, they walk in, my heart overflows with love. Hello, it's my boy, my girl. Imagine a Rebbe, fill in the blanks, a Yid walks in, his name is Pliny ben Pliny. That's you. You have any doubt that the Rebbe is not Pashut Molei Simcha? You ever think of it that way? They teach us. You have to tremble, kimuvan. You're walking into the oil, you're standing in the presence of somebody who knows every single thought you ever had and will have. It's a scary situation. I had a hard time going in this year, Gimmul Tammuz. I'm not going to talk about me. Not important. And the way I got myself to go in, I said, look, if he knows the not so good, he knows the good. I did a few good things too. If he knows, he knows. So, but I'm not going to say, I walked in, hello. But in terms of love, You know, we love our kids if they're good, if they're not so good, the love don't change. I'm suggesting, Brider, we need positive. This is not just a wave of the reality of today, which it is, but the Rebbe is living with our reality. The Rebbe was not into this whole negative chinuch from Amal, didn't knock it, the Rebbe wasn't knocking, but the Rebbe was building. Anyone who read any of the Igris where the Rebbe talks about chinuch, pick up the child, tell them that they're good, tell them that they could. And I believe, and I've, Bashpim have not, have nicht abgeschlagen, that if we walk away from tonight's Farbrengen, in addition to other things, that the next time every Yid in this room goes in Tzimtzion, or people watching, after they make the Cheshbon HaNefesh, and after they go to the mikveh, and they think, what does it mean to stand in the presence of such a thing, of such a Yid, v'chulu v'chulu, to recognize le'idach, ich geh zum Taten, and therefore ich can beten. I have a good friend who's a big mashpia. He knows a tremendous amount of chassidus, more than I'll ever know in 10 lifetimes. But years ago, he dealt with a particular issue, and he said, I don't know why, it's not moving, it's not moving. Shidduchim, one child, another, a third, it's a gate nicht. And we're sitting in Farbrengen, and we always have these debates. Rebbe or father? And it's not a debate, it's two sides of the same coin. And I look at him again like a simple Yid talking to a Yid versus Moli, V'Gadush, etc. But we're sitting once in a moment of truth, and he opened up his heart and he started to cry. We're very close. He says, Shalom, you know, did I do something wrong? I have children over the age of Shidduchim, 1, 2, 3, it's lining up. It's back to back, the on-deck circle is full. P'serukt sich nicht. I said, you went to the Rebbe? He says, yeah, but this is a Chassidish Yid. For him to go to the Rebbe, he has to fast Tanesim, you know what I mean? It's a lot of red tape. He's serious. We talk about it among the Shluchim of Long Island. We get together once in a while, and the Shluchim say, how often do you go to the Yoel? It's not so far. One guy says, I only go twice a year, Erev Rosh Hashanah and Gimmul Tammuz. Who am I to go to the Yoel? Another guy says, how often do you go? Erev Rosh Chodesh. Twice a month. They look at me, how often do you go? So if I wake up in the morning and I have a headache, I go to the Yoel. Das heißt, wir haben da Taten. And if we have a challenge, who do we go to if not for our father, for our parent? So I said humbly to this Chassidish Yid, I said, do you go and ask? He says, of course I went. What do you think? I didn't ask. When I write a poem, I write. I said, did you go like a child to a father? Tate, give me a bracha. Did you go a little more simple, unsophisticated? And we had a whole conversation. He didn't agree with me for 1 second. Within 4 months, all those 3 girls were engaged. To be precise, 2 girls and a boy, and he tells me years later, so I'm sharing it. This is personal and one-on-one. Somebody said to the Rebbe on Yechidus, Chachsidin didn't speak by Yechidus, they put it settled. So he wrote it settled that he says that one of his children, Rahman al-Islam, went off the way of Teda, and he said to the Rebbe, I don't understand. How come this one went off? I raised them all the same. And the Rebbe answered, that's the problem. You raise them all the same, they're not the same. Each of us is raised by the Rebbe. This is a room that's very diverse. We have Rabbonim, we have Shluchim, we have Yisrael. The beauty here is that we have people that are in business. We just saw the video. Everyone's a shliach. We have people car-carrying Chabadniks, not car-carrying Chabadniks. Every type. People go to work in the morning. The Rebbe doesn't raise us the same way. I love telling the story of Pinny. Anybody hear of Pinny? Anybody know Pinny? Yes? I grew up with a good friend named Pinny and Druzier. He's today a shliach in Florida. And Pinny, you know Pinny, was our neighbor. When we were in the same grade in yeshiva all the years. Just to bring out this point, how the Rebbe doesn't raise all of us the same way. If I could be a day of machshavas, there's probably people in the room thinking, it's not the big chassidim, they're all inspired, it's Gimmul Tammuz, the Rebbe, hello. Me, I'm a businessman. I came out because I got to go. You're Lubavitcher, you got to show up. But tomorrow I got a meeting, this, life goes on. Do I really, am I part of this picture? I'm a regular, simple guy. I'm a businessman, or I'm whatever. I'm trying to eke out a living. No, you're the only one. And each one is raised their own way. So listen to the story. We went to yeshiva together. Penny was a sports fan. We went to Aliteda. It wasn't cool to be a sports fan. It wasn't the thing. But he knew the stats. If the Jets were playing, he came dressed in the green colors. Hello? He was with the program. He did okay in yeshiva at Aguta Keppel. But he also had that other side, the Penny side. And of course, the yeshiva didn't like it. They gave him a hard time. I'm not saying you should do it. It's all academic. Bottom line is, fast forward, as a Bacher Shlichus, he went to Miami, Florida, Rabbi Shapiro's yeshiva. He was the first one to light a menorah by a major league stadium. Today, it's all over the world. I mean, it's a thing to do. You light a menorah, there's 100,000 people. I mean, it's ridiculous. The first one to be crazy enough to do this is who? Penny. Of course, he gave the credit to Rabbi Korf and everyone else. But he was the one who organized, because he used to go on Mivtzayim. Where did he go on Mivtzayim? He went to the Miami Dolphins, hello? And of course, there were kosher hot dog stands before you know it and everything else. A very vivacious type of guy, and he used his personality and his love of sports to do Mivtzayim, etc. Anyway, we all knew it was a big thing in Lubavitch. They're lighting a menorah, Miami Dolphins against the Dallas Cowboys. Hello, are you kidding me? This is crazy. It's like we thought Mashiach's going to come the next day. P.S. The game is Sunday. Friday, Penny's in Crown Heights. What happened? I was a friend of his. I said, Penny, what's going on? He says, I'm putting in a bottle. Those who remember, by the Farbrengen, the Rebbe would give out bottles. And Rabbi Groner would walk in with like 10 bottles. And if you were making an event that involves Teira, Yerushalayim, Chassidus, the Rebbe, but towards the end of the Farbrengen, would give you your bottle, pour you a little bit, say l'chaim, and the Rebbe would give you the bottles, Eis Tel and Ben HaMesubim, and you would have to announce what's the event. The Rebbe wanted to announce in front of the whole 770 what the event is, and einladen the Eilam, to invite the Eilam, and einladen the Sidereinu B'Reishenu. Kimuvin, obviously this is a spiritual thing. The Rebbe is connecting 770 and the Sidereinu to whatever event. And newly, who gave in a bottle? The guy finished the Siyam HaShas, he finished the Gemara, he finished the Tanya, he built a Beis Chabad. Something spiritual, Malva Malka, for something good. They once made it for a concert for a shul. The Rebbe didn't like it. He said, no, this is not for concerts. It's for a Svad and Chassidus. Penny walked into Grona. It was on Malichten Gan Eden. And he says, this is for the Miami Dolphins. Grona said, not a chance. If you know Grona, he was the hardest job in the world. After him was the mayor and then the president. But he was cautious. Penny said, listen, you have a choice. Either you take it or I'll bring it myself. And he knew Penny, that Penny's not giving an empty threat. So Rabbi Grona said, okay, but I'm telling you right now, if the Rebbe doesn't like it, it's on you. We all knew about this. All the Chavre were waiting. The Farbrengen comes to an end. It was hard for us to concentrate. Penny. There was like 10 bottles over there, and Nachum Galitsky, of course, got the last one for the Siyam Rambam. Penny's like this, right by the Yedlek into the last. He comes up there, and he was a Chassidus Bacher. He knew who he's standing in front of. But mit der Breitkeit, the Rebbe hat a Chliba Breitkeit, and the Rebbe pours him, and he says, Morgen, Nachmittag, 1:15, kickoff time. Miami Dolphins, Dallas Cowboys. Rabbi Avram Korf's going to light a giant menorah in the presence of 50,000 people. The ganze Olam is eingeladen, the Sidereinu B'Reishenu. Everybody's invited together with the Rebbe. Some of you were there. The Rebbe broke out with a smile. At the only other time I saw such a smile was David Chase by the groundbreaking of Chayel Tafshin Memches. We saw smiles. As the Rebbe writes in the Reshimis Hashmeichel from our Rebbe, this is a matana from Baal Shem Tov. But such a smile, the famous picture of David Chase with the Rebbe, was that Penny. The sun came out by that Farbrengen. It was like, wow. Translate how you wish. The smile was beyond, and of course, the place went wild. And Penny went back and did what he had to do. Fast 3 years later, he gets married. And he wasn't going on shlichus. You know, he's going to be a chassidische balabas. And he opened the business, and he was successful. It's called Nest Paper. He had trucks selling paper. Nest, it's a good name for penny. And he's matzliach l'fiarech. 2-3 years later, he wants to buy a house in Crown Heights. So he writes a letter to the Rebbe, like any good chassid. I want to buy a house. There's 3 houses on the market. One is a 1-family, one is a 2-family, one is a 4-family. What should I do? And the Rebbe did something which I don't know if it ever happened again in all the years of the Nesius. The Rebbe wrote, I don't know the Lashon, that if his wife is maskim, they should go on shlichus. The Rebbe didn't tell people what to do. Even the early years, you had to unschlagen. The Rebbe doesn't tell people. The whole thing is, the person should do it. Here, the guy was in business. He didn't give shlichus. It wasn't A, B, C, D. It was just A, B, C. And the Rebbe said, if your wife is maskim, go on shlichus. He told this story in front of the whole Knesset Shluchim about 3 years ago. He starts to cry. He says, Rebbe, you lifted me up. I was selling, you know what I mean, plates and cups. And now I'm dealing with diamonds, with Eden. Why do I love this story? Because again, I don't know the people individually. I have some people that I know. By the way, some of you might know I have roots here in Monsey. I went to Cheder here in Beis David. In those days, we wouldn't even walk into YSV. But today, Baruch Hashem, I'm a YSV. Rabbi Bayer was my teacher. Rabbi Weinstock al Shalom was our principal. And my brother became now Mechutnim Rabbi Bayer, because we made a shidduch with Simcha Werner. My Rav is here in Monsey. I feel at home in Monsey. But I don't know the people individually. But I tell this story, and I love this story. He doesn't raise them all the same way. It's Gimmul Tammuz, the Rebbe's Tug. The Shema goes, Ili Achar Ili, whatever, how each one wants to translate it, and the best thing is not to translate because we don't know. But to know one thing, each one is the only one, and each one is Be'efin Shalei. One guy is a Pini, one guy is a Moshe, one guy is a Yeshavel. Another similar story, Eli Lipsker, of Hashem, the famous musician. He was a Bacher in 770, and he was dabbling in music. I tell the story to yeshivas. The Manalim don't really like it, so I stopped telling it to the yeshivas. And obviously, you have to have seichel. And he kept the seder at yeshiva, but in between zdarim, he would go to Juilliard in Manhattan to take lessons. And the Hanhola found out about it, and they were very upset. This is a long time ago. This is in the old world. This is Tafshin Chof. You know what I mean? And Arusha Ingel, he's a Machsidische family, like through and through. He was a good boy. He was frum and everything else. He wasn't like chilled. But he had a chush in music. So the Hanhola was very upset, and they decided that the monthly meeting, once a month, Hanhola would go into the Rebbe, right? Levitten and Mentlik, the 3 of them, I think. Jacobson, all of them, they would give a duch on each bacher individually. Was tutzach. So they said they have to write. Lipsker is going to Juilliard. And they felt bad. They're going to give the Rebbe Ambas Nefesh. And they didn't know what to do. The Rebbe comes to him, the Rebbe says, a gate in Juilliard? I don't know the Lashon, I wasn't there. How could he afford it? How is he paying for it? It's the last thing they expected to hear. Their last thing. Expected to hear, oh, you vage, the beginning of the end, and it's at Lubavitcher Rebbe. Can Seivel sein dem ganze Welt. And the Rebbe walked out. By the time they walked out, they had to carry the bill for Juilliard, for Lipska. You guys will figure it out. He's a Yossim from Israel. What does he know? You make sure that he's not carrying a bill. He became a Chassidish musician. We all heard him. He played in front of the Rebbe, all the rallies. And he had a Chassidish, he had a Shir L'Kutateta in his house every single Shabbos morning, which he delivered for Bali Tshuva, for Yungilite. Not everybody's the same. We're not cookie cutter. And that's what the Rebbe was saying in the video. Each one does their own. I love the theme of the night. I love the theme of the video. I don't want to repeat what Rabbi Lesha said, but the fact that it's 4 or 5 Yungalad get together, the achdos, the love, it's not mi berosh, it's us. It's a tremendous nachas ruach. You know, the Rebbe loves every Yid, but the Rebbe spoke many times, Karm Shalei. You walk into a room of Anash. This is precious. For each, but the theme of the evening, everyone's a shliach, practically. Don't quit your day job. What did the Rebbe say? Lama. The Rebbe should put you there. Elevate it, figure it out. I want to tell you some of the meditations that I use. Even though I'm officially a shliach, but I still have a yitzhara. Sorry, don't tell anybody. Don't let it leave this room. So I find myself in situations where, you know, have an opportunity to put on tefillin with a yid, especially if it's unconventional. I'm in the dentist chair, or the doctor, or whatever it is, a UPS guy, maybe a taxi driver. I had last week a kakafta in a taxi. Hello, kakafta, the guy must be 80, 75. It's like, where do you get this? Where could you buy this? But not always you're in the mood. You're a human being. I wasn't in the mood, believe me. I go to the dentist. The dentist is not my favorite place, my second favorite. And the guy just drilled through me from top to bottom, and I have to pull out my tefillin, and I have to become all the convincing. Leave it alone, what's the big deal? And I tell myself every time the same thing. Hopefully not every time it's such a big milchama, but at times it is. I tell myself like this: you're a foot soldier. Sheish meis elef ragli, asher anoichi bekirbei. I'm not the whole picture. I'm a foot soldier. There's an army. It's 5,000 shluchim. I don't know the number. Anash. Probably not good to count. 10 likatezente, maybe 100 likatezente. Who took the Rebbe's word to heart? There's a yid of making tefillin. Translate to any other mitzvah. So I make a simple cheshbon. Let's think of a number: 50,000. It's probably a low ball by big time. If I put under one tefillin, it's 50,000 tefillin. I just got to do one. I got to do the one in front of me, because you'll do the one in front of you, and you'll do the one in front of you. And if Rachmana litzlan, I act not like a Lubavitcher chassid, and I'm not in the mood, 50,000 tefillin. It's about the cheshbon. Hello? It's a numbers game. It's to walk away tonight in Mitzvah Shem and to personalize it and realize this is unser Rebbe, but more so it's mein Rebbe. It's personal. The simcha b'moil, and as the Rebbe says, knowing at his door he's there and he's listening and he's elevating. I want to just, and to bring to Rebbe these matanis, there's no difference, as you saw in the video. In a lot of ways, the Baal Esek is a bigger shliach than the shliach or the Rav or the Rosh Yeshiva, because remember, the goal is dira b'tachteinim. He's dealing with the tachteinim even more. I want to just take a few more minutes. I'm a little over time for this segment, but just to share a story from the oil, which happened to me. I'm sure people have heard many stories. People can write books. One of my Geschmacker stories, a lot of stories on the video screen. My people, I tell them stories. We live close. It's about 45 minutes from there. A lot of Yidden go. They go on their own. And they're standing by the video. They're waiting for the answer because they heard stories from me. But I could write a book. My Shver Zalman Schmuckler, Zayin Gesund from California. So every year, Simchas Torah, he came to the Rebbe since Tafshin Yud Gimmul when he came to America. Never missed. And after Gimmul Tammuz, nothing changed. His minhag is he goes to 770 Simchas Torah, and Hoshana Rabbah he goes to the oil to get the lekach. Because the Rebbe would give lekach Yom Kippur, Erev Yom Kippur, and also Hoshana Rabbah, those who missed it. And he couldn't go a year without his lekach. This is year after year. About 5 years ago, he couldn't come in for whatever reason. It was impossible. He felt terrible. So he calls up my wife. He says, Sorele, you have to go take my lekach. My wife says, not a problem. We always go anyway, Hoshana Rabbah. So we get in the car, my wife and I, and we said, whoever wants to come. One of my sons, Label, decided to come. And we knew we have to take Zayda's lekach. Proverbial lekach, we have to ask, whatever it means. We walk into the house with the video, and my son Label screams, Mommy, look at the screen. Hello, you sitting? I recommend you guys sit down. My shver is on the screen, taking lekach. I mean, this is already, we don't bother picking up. But I'm going to share one more story before I close now. Hopefully we'll have opportunities to talk more later. We had a tkufa in our Chabad house in Port Washington, which was a very difficult financial tkufa. For a period of about 10 years, we were in tremendous chavis. I was sitting by the oil yesterday, sitting next to my friend, Manta, Rabbi Levitin from Seattle, who Baruch Hashem also climbed out of his chavis. And I said, I had chavis. He says, yeah, but you don't know. I told him my number. He says, really? It's bigger than my number. I managed a little small shliach to have big numbers. Whatever it is, we had a day school for about 12 years. It doesn't take a lot to arrange it. But anyway, so it was a very serious situation. We were about to lose the building. And we owed millions. But there was one particular Baal Chayv. We owed him about $500,000. And He was a former friend. He wasn't such a friend anymore. And finally, he entered a legal document that in 30 days, the building is his. You know, people think in America, you call a lawyer, you call a judge, and you kick it down the road for 6 months, 6 years. But this is a legal document. It's called confession of judgment, whatever it is. The lawyer's in the room. We had to give it to him to stay alive. He said, you know what, I have the confession. Rabbi, not a problem. I'll see you on the courthouse steps. It was all over the newspapers. Our building is worth about $6-7 million. For $500,000, it's going to be auctioned on the courthouse steps. And it was in the papers. We had such tzaddas. We owed the IRS. We owed everybody. Everybody and his mother, plus the credit cards. And I was living in, La La Land. I'm a shliach. We're going to get through it. I had no idea how. I didn't have a day and a night for years. And my Babatim would call me, Rabbi, did you see the building is on auction? I said, nah, it's a joke. It wasn't a joke. But anyway, the clock's ticking. I have 30 days, not 31. Rabbi Lesh is 30. So I don't know what to do. I call Moshe Galarski. I don't have a Baal boss that's going to write a $500,000 check, especially in my matzav then. It didn't make any sense. There was no chance that he would get repaid. Plus, they all owed me. I owed them money anyway. No bank's giving a look at me, because if you Google Paltiel, Port Washington banks, you got the rest of the story. My biggest bill was the legal team that saved us, if you will. And we're going to get the money, and you have 28 days. So, of course, you call Kolarski. The Abisha should give him I mean, it's unbelievable. The same way we know that the Abisha Bashaf and Rabbi Yael for the Rebbe, Bashaf and I don't know some others, Bashaf and Rabbi Meisha. I'm just using as I saw him by the El. It doesn't look so good. I don't know his name. Moshe Yehuda ben Golda. It means a Chayisha Chesed for anybody. From Rebbe's Meistis, I mean, it's ridiculous. There isn't a person that you talk to that didn't L'chaim, soll haben Arichas Yom, B'Shalom Tevis, und der Leben zu senden des Gals, und sie der Reinu B'Reishenu, L'chaim. Anyway, back to the regular programming. So I'm done in a minute. I know the organizers are looking at a program. So I called Moshe, and he says, the only guy that might be able to help you is so-and-so. I'm not going to mention his name from the podium. I'm going to give him a nickname, Yankel. That's a nice name. And I never met this Yankel. I said, this Yankel never met me. He's going to give me $500,000. Like, in the Falal Arosh, what's wrong with him? He says, I don't know. I says, I can't call him because there's too many shluchim owe him money. He lends money to anybody, not only any from Mason, not only Lubavitch. And he's all over the place. I can't call him. But if he agrees to do it and he calls me, I will say that you're a decent guy. I'll tell him you're a terrible businessman. Use a different word than terrible. It's not important. But I'll tell him that you're a decent guy and maybe your word means something. But Kit said, I start emailing the guy. And he's answering me. It was a huge Ashgacha Pratis already that his wife came to New York to Prior Lag Ba'omer with a whole group of girls from Eretz Yisrael to visit New York and the oil. And they had a luncheon in my Chabad house. I didn't even know. We're close to the oil, so they used our social hall and they had lunch. And I spoke to them. But I didn't put two and two together. And she saw the whole place. I heard it's a nice building. Schön gesehen ist da Gott auf der Welt. So we're going back and forth on email, but with my Hebrew, I have to use Google Translate and everything else. And the time difference, we're only both awake for like 5 hours a day. So there's very short conversations back and forth. Maybe, yes, no, how much is it worth? How much do you owe? What's going to be the terms? Of course, there's no interest, but when are you going to pay me back? It's $500,000 giving to some guy who's pretty much a loser. Anyway, after 5-6 days, he's showing interest, and I'm getting hope. Suddenly he stops answering. Not a word. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Motzei Shabbos, Sonntag, garnished. And the clock is ticking. Remember, there's 31 day, boom, Mineola courthouse steps. I'm sending emails, the subject line, dachuf, in Hebrew with the red, Nothing. I get into the car. I remember it was a legal holiday. I think it was in January, President's Day. It was like, -5. For me, it felt like -50. I was probably legally in depression. My wife was afraid to let me go alone. She sent my daughter, who was home from school, and she was like the witness to this story. And I recommend you sit down for this too. And I come there, and usually the oil is busy in the morning. There's nobody there. It's freezing. Maybe in the whole oil, the whole campus, all the tents, maybe there was 6 people, 10, 20 people, empty. I walk in. I went to the mikveh, of course, and I didn't eat. Those are my extent of my achonis. I didn't even let it settle. I was so distraught. And I love telling this story because a lot of times people hesitate to go to the oil. I don't feel connected. If I have a problem, I have to feel connected. My father's going to judge me. I was down. I walked in without a zettel. I didn't even bother taking on Bein Lashon. I just stood there and talked. I put the whole thing on him. If I had a physical key to the building, I would have thrown it in. And basically I said, Rebbe, look, Yankel is the only guy that we know who's crazy enough and able to do this, and he's not answering me. I never met the guy. Remember, I saw him once by a Kinnis HaShluchim, like 5 years before. He was on the head table and I was in the back room. You know what I mean? Table 782. But he doesn't know me. And so either change his mind, I'm telling the Rebbe, which is Hepech HaTeira, there's no concept of Bechira, change his mind or get me somebody else. I'm standing there for 20 minutes, and then I walk out, and out of habit, my minhag is I go to the Rebbe Tzimchana's kever. Remember, there's nobody there. I see a lone soul standing at Rebbe Tzimchana's kever. And it looks like Yankel. I saw him yesterday by the oil. Every time we see each other, we saw Gila Lakos. But then I said to myself, are you delusional? Because you need him here, he's here? What are you, crazy? You never met the guy in your life. There's nobody here. Why would he be here? I remember the feeling. But I take another few steps. Hello, it's him. I lost it like a pressure cooker with the cholent. I said, Yankel! He turns around from Rebbe Tzimchana, and he says, Paltia, lama ta tzoek, ta teoret kol hamitim po. I said, why are you crying? Why are you screaming? You're going to wake up the dead people. I said, Yankel, I just lost it. I had nothing to lose, I guess. I said, you're in big trouble. I was just talking about you. He says, where? I said, inside there. You're ignoring me. The guy picks up his hands. I says, I give up. He said, with all the things I have out, with shluchim and all the bases, I know you have a nice building and everything. They said you're a pretty decent guy, whatever. But I decided, it's not my birudim. Let someone else fix it. But the Hashgacha Pratis brought me here. So I'm sharing this story. Each one is a ben yachid. And each one is raised their own. The achlata tonight is not to go home and I'm going to be like the mashpia, like the Rav. I'm going to be like I need to be. But I'm going to know that I'm a shliach from Rebbe, which really means a shliach of melech, malchei, amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But no yechide, as we saw in the video. And wherever I go, my work, I'm not going to quit my job. I'm going to be me. But I'm going to be the best me. I was by the oil a few weeks ago, and a colleague of mine came with a group of students from Boston University. It's known as BU. And I'm rushing, and he calls me over. He says, Shalom Moshe, tell them something inspirational. I didn't have anything in my mind, and plus I was in a big rush. I said, where are you guys from? Tell them what the Rebbe is about. So where are you guys from? We're from BU. I said, the Rebbe is about BU. This is really the hirav. This is what the organizers are trying to accomplish tonight. We're not trying to make everybody the same. We're not all going to walk out with the same hat. We're not all going to walk out with the same profession. We're all going to be you, and we're all going to be a ben yachid. And know that the Rebbe is raising me. I'm Eli Lipsker, I'm Pinny, I'm me. But I'm going to be a shining me, Zeiler, a Balabat Sheyid. He lived his business like a shlichus. Und wir geben nachas Ruach and schreiben Duchim. Und geben dem Rebbe nachas. And very soon celebrate Gimmul Tammuz without mixed feelings, but with a real hilul and a real simcha. L'chaim.
Tzoma lecho nafshi, koma lecho v'sori, be'eretz Tzion ve'yoye b'limoyi.
Should announce? Please sit down for the next part of the program.
L'chaim, l'chaim. I want to mention all the children that are here. This year we did the Farbrengen a few hours earlier, and many children joined us. So l'chaim to all the children. L'chaim. Born and raised in Mexico, Rabbi Shabbos served his hometown for many years as Rosh Kollel. For the last 20 years, Monsey is honored to have a Talmid Chacham of his caliber, a true role model of saying yes to when fellow Yidden need his assistance or his guidance, the Rav of Knesset Yisrael, Hagoyin Harav Shabbos Shlita.
Yashikayach, I feel very big schus to be here tonight, to be a part of this beautiful chizuk. After a previous speaker of Paltiel, I stand no chance. After such an introduction, I don't think I'll be able to live up to it. Every morning we get up, we say Avinu of Harachamon Hamerachem Rachem Aleinu 3 times Hamerachem Rachem. And we ask V'seim Libeinu Lehavenu Lehaskil Lishmaya Lilmeid Ulalamed. When we say Rachem Aleinu and V'seim Libeinu, we're not just referring to ourselves. We're referring to every single Yid out there. Close or far, it is all part of the Rachem Aleinu V'seim Libeinu. And we ask the Rebbe should give us Lehavinu Lehaskil Lishmaya Lilmeid Ulalamed. Some of us are Malamdim. Do we all have to ask Lelamed? I understand. Rabbeim, Mashpim. However, everyone has to ask Lelamed. Rabbi Feinstein Zechariah Levracha says the answer is yes. Each one of us is a Melamed because we all have opportunities to be mashpia on others, to inspire others, and every single one of us asks, we should be able to have the schus to be able to do Lelamed because no matter where, no matter what, we have an opportunity to be mashpia on somebody, to inspire somebody, to teach something to somebody, and yes, every single one of us is a Melamed. We say, Lishmaya, Lilmei, Lamed, Lishma, Velasis, Ulekayim. What does Ulekayim mean? There's Ramban, Parshas Kisava, he brings the Yerushalmi in Saita. Pasuk says, we know that there's brachas and the colors of the word, Har Grizim, Har Eval. It says, Baruch Asher Yokim, and Rachman Litzlan, the opposite, Asher Lo Yokim. Says the Yerushalmi, Amar Avasi B'Shem Avtancho Barachia, Lamad v'limeid shama v'asa. A person learned and he taught others. Shama, he kept every single one of the mitzvahs. He was not over any of the averes v'asa. V'yosipek v'yadai l'hachzik v'lohirzik. He had the opportunity to mechazik others and he was not. Hareze b'chlal rachmanu litzlan asher lo yokim. The harsh words of asher lo yokim. Even though he personally learned and he taught, nevertheless he has the opportunity to be able to mechazik somebody else, to mekayah somebody else, and he did not. Says the Torah that Rachmanu Litzlan, it is part of Asher Lo Yokim. When we ask Lilmeid Ulalamed Lishma Velasis Ulekayim, Asher Lo Yokim Rachmanu Litzlan is not to mechazik. We ask the Rebbe to give us opportunity, Lelamed and Lekayim, to be able to mechazik anybody that we're able to be mechazik, so that Be'ez Hashem we shall have the bracha, and Rachmanu Litzlan the opposite. My feeling is that every person that is here tonight is coming here, lehis chazik ulechazik, Our purpose is not only to get chizuk, to be miskasher, but to be able to derive from here the kaiches to be able to be mechazik others, to give unto others. So it's a bench to maimad. The fact that we come together to be mischazik and to be mechazik others, we have the bracha from the Rebbeinu Shalom of Baruch Asher Yakim. How are we mashpia on others? We know the word shefa, abundance, and the word shipua, which is a slant, an angle. The way we mashpia on others is we fill ourselves with chizuk. We fill ourselves with Yoshamayim, with Torah, with a commitment to the Rebbeinu Shalom, and our overflow, our shefa, goes unto others without even doing anything, without even saying anything. The fact that we live besimcha with the Rebbeinu Shalom, and it's contagious unto others, that's the shefa that comes out from us, that's the shipua, that's what comes off from the angle that slides off from us, and that's how we are mashpia to others. First of all, we're mechazik ourselves, and that goes on to everybody besides for that. The fact that we go over to somebody, as we heard from Paltiel, and we say, yes, you can. For us to be able to say you can, you are able to, we have to first fill ourselves with the knowledge that I can. I am a ben yochid, I can. I'm able to. There is a maimah from Rav Tzadok HaKohen from Lublin, and Pliya de Kemaimah. He says, Kishem shemitzah la'amin b'HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Just like there's a mitzvah to believe in the Rebbeinu Shalom, kach mitzvah lehamin be'atzmai, so too there's a mitzvah to believe in oneself. If I don't believe in myself, then I don't accomplish, and therefore I won't be able to be mashpia to others. I won't be able to go over to somebody else and tell him, yes, you can. I won't be able to give him that chizuk that is possible to give him because I don't believe in myself. And as important as it is, you say the sadas, a person doesn't believe in the Rebbeinu Shalom, there's nothing. There's no vasutzugein. If we don't believe in ourselves, it's exactly the same thing. There's yesh kaina olamai b'shah achas. The Gemara tells us about the Elizabeth Udai, a person that was probably one of the most immoral people in the world during his time. One time, in mitten of my Savera, he got to his Eirus from a Baal Savera. And the Gemara tells us now by the Zohar that he went ahead and he asked Harim Ugvais, they should be mispal on me. They told him, I should mispal Malacha, we have to mispal ourselves. He asked Shamayim Va'aretz, he asked the Chama Levana, until Elazar Dodaya said, Ein adavar talui bi. Hiniach Reisha ben Birka, he put his head between his legs, and he started crying, Yotza Nishmasai, Yotza Baskoil, and it said, Rav Elazar ben Dodai, he got a title, Rav Elazar ben Dodai, the Mushchas, the Chaitu Machti, became a Rav Elazar ben Dodai, Mezuman l'chayelam haba. Because he said, Ein adavar talui bi. Bacha Rebbe cried, and he said, Yesh kaina olamai b'shah achas, Yesh kaina olamai, with the whole lifetime. Why is Rebbe crying, Yesh kaina olamai b'shah achas? Every single moment in our lives could be that time, that moment, Yesh kaina olamai. We have many, many seconds every single day. Every single one of those seconds could be that Yesh kaina olamai, and many times it just goes wasted and it goes without us making the proper use of it. That's the Bacha Rebbe Yesh Kaina Mashallah Achas. The fact that we smile to somebody, it gives them a chizuk. It's something that we underestimate. Just giving a smile to somebody, even not saying a word. The Gemara tells us, Leven Shinai Mecholav, Godel Hamelabin Shinai Mechaver is greater, the one that shows the white of his teeth to his friend, Mimashkeu Cholav, Leven Shinai Mecholav. The chiyuch, the smile, is chiyus. I once heard from Mashgiach in the Shmuz, Mashgiach of Shlomo Bobas, and in Ber Yankov there was a lot of cats around the Beis Medrash. Pam ra'item chatula mechayechet? Did you ever see a cat smiling? An animal doesn't have such a thing as a smile because they don't have the chiyus, they don't have a neshama. There's a little baby and we're waiting for that smile. We're waiting to see the chiyus of the baby, which comes with a smile. And that is the chiyus that we're able to give to somebody else with the leven shinai mechalav. The chizuk that everybody is able to give to somebody else, just give him a smile, and you're giving a part of yourself, you give him a chiyus, they receive that chiyus, and something that it's unbelievable, the kayach that it has. I know a bacher in yeshiva, the once got a ticket to come to Switzerland to a chasana. One of the bacher was getting married, very little to do with him, and he didn't know why a ticket to come to his chasana in Switzerland. He wasn't a close chaver. So he calls him up and he says, "What's going on? It's very nice, but..." So he told him, "You should know, I'm in yeshiva because of you. I decided I'm going to leave yeshiva, nobody cares about me, nobody looks at me. One time, I was washing my hands, you came over to me, my lapel was a little bit up, and you put it back in place, and you made me feel like a human being. You cared for me. And you should know that's why I stayed in yeshiva, and Baruch Hashem, I steiged, and I grew in Torah and Yeshamayim, and it's because of you that I'm getting married today to such a chashuv, to the zivug. It's all your credit. We would never know what we did with a little maisa, with something as insignificant as that. And that's something that we're able to, every single one of us, wherever we are, wherever we go, we have the ability to be able to give unto others and to imechaya others. We know that the bracha of Geshem is the bracha of Tchias HaMeisim. Because Geshem, that's the physical life, and Tchias HaMeisim is the chiyus that Hashem gives in every single matzah, and ultimately Tchias HaMeisim, literally to the Meisim. The Gemara tells us that in the days of David HaMelech, there was a row for 3 years. The first year, the Gemara says that from the Psukim, David HaMelech said maybe there's Avodah Zarah. They didn't find Avodah Zarah. The second year, maybe there was immorality. They didn't find. The third year, David HaMelech says maybe there are places stuck of Rabbi Veina and Neisnim. They felt Avodah Zarah, Gili Arayis, and it's possible that for that, something that you can give to somebody else, that is what gives the chiyus to the world of Geshamim. And it's not only a place of tzedakah. Every chesed, every tzedakah we can do to somebody else, that's something that could be the schus for why we could have the chiyus of Geshamim and Eretz Yisrael. It's all because of the chesed that Klal Yisrael does, and every little bit thing that we do is something that could be mashpia to be able to give to others. We meet somebody and we say, "Avarem Shalom Aleichem." Who's he talking to? He's talking to me. And we have no idea how much we could accomplish with this, with the warm Shalom Aleichem, to be mashpia onto others. We have hundreds and thousands of opportunities every single day to be able to mechazek others, and we take the chiyus that we have from Farbrengen, from coming together, and we mechaya ourselves, and that gives us the koyach to be able to give unto others. Yes, we're all lelamed, we all have a chiyuv lelamed, and there is a baruch asher yokim esivei atayah azois, that even though we have learned, that we have taught, and even though also and we need to kiyem, lekayim is to give that chiyus unto others, to mechazek others, to mashpia, to take that shefa unto ourselves, and to give unto others, to overflow from ourselves, and just people see the simchas hachayim that we have, and that gives over to others and gives the chiyus. And Be'ez Hashem, with the koyach of being able to mechazek others, will bring not just the tchias hameisim for the people that are around us, but Hashem will be zoichet to tchias hameisim with the gula asilu meru yameinu amen. Thank you very much.
Talmud Chacham Mikri Shabbos. Training the nation.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Harav Shabbos, for inspiring the Olam with words of Chizuk and Esairus. I want to again thank those who helped make this event possible and all the young elites who came together and inspired many to contribute and to participate with their time and creativity. Thank you very much to all the Masaskim. If anyone would like to contribute, you can find a credit card machine outside. Let's take a small moment to pause and listen to the Tefillah of Sheibana Beis HaMikdash, sang by cantor Rabbi Aryeh Leib Horowitz. Thank you.
Sheyibon nebis aminos, b'meira b'yamei.
for me. I'm good. 'Cause I'm focused. No. I could go. I got no problem. I'm ready to go back. I'm not going to eat because I go. I don't. No, but. Showing? L'chaim. Hi. L'chaim. Hello? L'chaim l'vracha, chsidim. Ashreinu matei chalkeinu. What's going on? Too loud? Too low? Huh? We're a team. I walked in, I saw them walking around with trays of kelishklach. It looked funny. I never saw it before in my life. Trays of kelishklach. But afterwards, I realized it's brilliant. If Eilim is sitting and watching, it doesn't work. The Eilim says a couple of l'chaims. I meant the foot of us would say there was a gzeira, mashkem, daf trinken, l'chal bachas fir. I either say l'chaim. So let's say l'chaim, and each one of us, Farbrengen mit sich, and with each other. L'chaim l'vracha. Okay, use my notes. So we know there's always the but. What's the enemy? What's the arch enemy of Yidden? Klippas Amalek. What's Klippas Amalek Baruchnis? Amalek is Gematria Safik. The Rebbe said in the Sikha famously that when Yidden had a suffix, not the suffix if there's a Eibush there. It's a Yid, a Frum Merid, what kind of question? The question is, it's a recorded Sikha, and most of you probably heard it. Is the Eibush there involved? Does he know what's going on day by day in real time? Al derech zeh, you tell me there's a Rebbe and I fear the Welt. It's not so hard to accept. But you tell me, Yeshavai Bekirbeinu, in plain English, he knows my name. Da kommt again Amov Ayavi Amalek. Get the right to Tzion. Somebody got up, some guy with a short jacket and a tie, and decided that when you go into the Tzion, the Rebbe is Pashut happy like a father seeing his child. Like, hello, does he even know who I am? Maybe some of us never saw the Rebbe B'chlal. Some of us, our fathers and mothers didn't see the Rebbe. So Amalek has a field day. What's going on? Hello? In my shul. Hello, L'chaim. I'm spoiled in Long Island. They don't talk when I talk. So, Shimmy Kalazar of the Shliach in Texas tells the story. Many years ago, there was a young Shliach. He was facing a serious problem. And he found out that there's a Jew, a Frum Yid, who lives in Queens, not a Lubavitcher, who can help him with his problem. So he made tickets to come in from Texas with his wife to meet this Yid, an important Jew, Balabatash Yid, whatever it is, to help him with the problem. He tells him the problem, and he says it's a very serious problem. Did you write to the Rebbe about this problem? This not Lubavitcher is telling him, the Shliach. He says, yes, of course I wrote. So what did the Rebbe say? So he said, the Rebbe didn't answer me. So the Veltisher Yid says to him, the Rebbe didn't answer you, such a problem? Does the Rebbe even know your name? Like there's so many shluchim, and Lubavitch is so big, this is back in the day even. How could he know your name and not answer you such a question? Shimon is a Chassidish Yid, and he starts screaming at him, what do you mean? A Chassid knows, the Rebbe knows everything. The guy says, I don't know, this is a big deal, this is a big problem. The Rebbe didn't answer you, he doesn't know. And of course, the chassid in him is screaming at him. You know what I mean? How could you say such a thing? It's a Rebbe. Anyway, P.S. Suddenly a phone call comes in, but there's a surprise Farbrengen. He's in New York and decided if he's here, he's not going to miss the Farbrengen. So he apologizes to the fellow and he says, I'm sorry. And we'll make a time to come back again. There's a Farbrengen, I'm here in New York, I'm going to go. And he gets into the car. He's driving to Crown Heights. He says the whole half-hour trip from Queens to Crown Heights, the Yetzer Hara is having a field day with him. I love him for telling this story. Everyone thinks this other guy is a Chassidish Yid that verloren the Yitzhahara. Yitzhahara is a Chevraman. He does his job, and he plays every one of us, every one. And on the way he's driving, Yitzhahara is playing games with his head. Maybe the guy has a point. He's the mice. Maybe the guy has a point. The Rebbe knows my name. And then the chassid and he wakes up. What do you mean? How could it be? It's impossible. He said, Rebbe, he's an Ish Aliki, everything else. But what do you mean? He didn't answer. The Rebbe's too busy. He's trying to make the Rebbe big. He's too big. The Rebbe doesn't know. I'm fighting with himself. By the time he came to 770, he was dizzy, had a headache. He says he ran in. It was impossible to get to his regular place because it was in the middle of a sikha. So he climbed up on top of the bleachers by the back, by the mizrach, I believe. And the sikha was over. They start singing a niggin. The Rebbe turns around to his side that someone should say l'chaim. He said, he didn't dream it meant him because he was a younger manchik. I think he was like 30 years old at the time. The Rebbe would ask to say l'chaim, El Tereid, Arov, somebody prominent, a 30-year-old kid, shliach anat. The Rebbe wouldn't ask you. So he ignored it. And the Rebbe keeps pointing. And finally, Rebbe Groner comes over. And the Rebbe whispers to him, and Rebbe Groner screams, Shimon, zog l'chaim. So he takes a cup, and the Rebbe goes, so they're filling up a big cup. He couldn't believe it's happening. The Rebbe is bothering. He should say l'chaim. And the place got quiet, and the Rebbe shouted, Varfa vektim morashchere. Throw away the melancholy and the sveikis. And he said it was a direct answer. I have a brother, Mendy Paltiels, a shliach in Orange County, California. So he says that when he was a kid, the Rebbe was waving to him, and he didn't know. What happened was they were on a school trip from Olateda or the day camp, whatever it is, and the bus was parked right outside of 770, and they're loading the bus. Maybe there was a rally, I don't know. So he's on the bus, and he's waving to one of his chavedim who's on the street, right in front of 770, that he has a seat for him. You know how it works, you save a seat for your friend. So he's waving like this, and he's waving wildly to his friend. Meanwhile, the Rebbe walks out of 770, and the Rebbe is waving to him. Because a kid, I don't know how old he was, 10, 8. So the whole walk, the Rebbe is waving to this kid, and he had no clue. And he's waving, and then the Rebbe goes into the car or whatever, and everybody went running onto the bus. Who was the Rebbe waving to? He had no idea. My brother told a story by his son's bar mitzvah in California some years back, and he had a few l'chaim, he's a Chassidish young man, and he was crying. He said, sometimes we think the Rebbe is ignoring us. He's trying to get our attention, and we're busy looking somewhere else. There's a beautiful vart in the Ha'ara and Lekutei Sichos. Today, Baruch Hashem Chassidim are learning Lekutei Sichos again, thanks to the project Lekutei Sichos, which is an unbelievable thing. If you're not on the program yet, that's a very good hachlata. Over 10 years to go through all the Sichos, it's not just, guys, I'm powerful, there's shiurim, there's fighting, I'm on a chat of Yugilite, and not Yisrael necessarily. Almost none of them. Shluchim, business people, whatever. And the guys are learning the Sichos, and they're fighting with each other. There's machlekes in 3, 4, 5 days fighting on an issue. The Rebbe meant this. I don't know if you guys learned the Sichos Chukas yet. The Anani are covered, went away from Aaron because of Aaron. But what about the Anani not shall covered? Were they b'schus Aaron or b'schus Moshe? It doesn't say clear in the Sichos. And guys who have budgets to cover are fighting over this. It's the Rebbe's dream. The Rebbe didn't want that we should take the Sichos b'Kabbalah sale. But anyway, that's a side. Says Bavus the Sikha Ha'ara and the Lekutei Sichos, the Rebbe says, I believe it's Chelik Lamed Beis, Zayin Adar, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm bringing up in the Koyach Denim of Amalek, because Amalek it doesn't go away until the day comes when Hashem Sholem V'Akisi Sholem, he's going to work hard. And he only has one goal, to show it to a little doubt. He's not going to come and tell you not to be a Frumerid, not to be a Chassid even. He's just going to say, maybe not. Not maybe not, something important, but maybe not. This Meshigan Paltiel decided that I'm a Ben Yochid, that the Rebbe Pashit can't Pravi Gimmul Tammuz without me. And then when I walk in, there's a simcha, and if I am going through an Nisayin, and I overcome my Rebbe, it's a simcha. If I fail, it's an Agmas Nefesh. And the Rebbe is with me in real time when I'm doing that Nisayin and overcoming it. Be'ezrat Hashem. I'm not saying not. Every cynic does that. I'm not saying not, maybe not. They killed the whole thing. Hayeshavai b'kirbeinu. Das ist doch Hepech von ganz Yiddishkeit, ganz Elokus. Less asar pani b'nei. You can't say he's everywhere except one place. That's not the Eibush there. It's not Elokus. But this is the challenge. So listen to what the Rebbe says in the Sikh. He's talking about Haman, Yimach Shemeh, which is the union of Amalek. So the Rebbe says, the famous Gemara, that Haman made the Pur, Samach Simcha G'deila. Because Nafal b'Chedesh Adar, Yerech Shemeis Bein Moshe. He was so happy that the Pur came out in Adar, the month of the death of Moshe Rabbeinu, Amachaya. It's bad luck for the Jews, Moshe Rabbeinu. Says the Gemara that what? Lo Yedeya Shebezayin Adar Meis, Ubezayin Adar Neilad. B'Meila, he didn't know that Zayin Adar Moshe died, Taken, he was also born. B'Meila, he miscalculated. And of course, it became a tremendous thing. The Rebbe says in the order, it's a mugadik order in Lekutei Sichos. I once said it by an online Farbrengen, and a few of my chavedim, Chassidish in Gala, to learn Sichos, they send me texts, really? Where does it say such a thing? It's mugad in Lekutei Sichos. And the Rebbe says like this, that there's a kasha on this Gemara. Two kashas. First of all, why does it say that he didn't know Zayin Adar Meis or Zayin Adar Neilad? Zayin Adar Meis, he did know. He said, Samach Simcha G'deila, Shebezayin Adar Meis. Haman was happy because it came on Adar and Moshe died on Adar. He did know. So the Gemara should just say, what's the one Chiddush? He didn't know Shebezayin Adar Neilad, that he was also born. That would have been enough. The Gemara is Teda. It's Teda's Emes. It's Dvar Hashem. I mean, there's no extra words. So why does it repeat Zayin Adar Meis? Secondly, why does it have in the order Zayin Adar Meis, that he died, and Zayin Adar Neilad, he was born? Last time I checked, you're born before you die. So if for whatever reason the Gemara wants to repeat that fact, that Zayin Adar Meis, that Haman which Haman really knew, it should have said that he didn't know that he was born and he died in that month. Why the repetition and why the reverse order? Zayin Adar Meis, Zayin Adar Neilad. It's backwards. And the Rebbe says that it's not rational, that I'm adding a little bit to B'derech Efshe, that Haman didn't know Shebezayin Adar Neilad. Why shouldn't he know? No one makes Haman to be a stupid guy. He was as smart as he was evil. If he knew Bezayin Adar Meis, that Moshe died, he probably knew the birthday. In fact, the Rebbe says it over there, that the two dates are connected. They're connected. There's no reason to assume that he didn't know Pashut, the technical facts, that Bezayin Ba'adar, he was born and died. The Rebbe teaches what the Gemara is saying is not just he didn't know facts. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But that's not relevant. What he didn't know is something else. Let's say he knew Moshe was born Zayin Adar. And then Moshe died Zayin Adar. So that's it. He's over. He was taka born Mazel Tov, Yasher Koyach, and then he died. Allah Shalom, it's over. It's finished. Moshe is great, but Meis. It's a word from Rebbe. It's not a Psachsidische Hergish. Zayin Ba'adar Meis. Then on the day of the Stalkus of a Tzaddik, on that day he's Neilad. On that day he's born. I don't want to use the term born again. But that, and it says in Yeres HaKedesh, Simin Zach and Koyach, etc. On that day, his Koyach is unleashed. Zayin Ba'adar Meis, Neilad. Gimmul Tammuz, Tavshin und Daled. It was Kach v'Kach. Gimmul Tammuz, Tavshin und Daled, Neilad. It's a whole new thing. Yatir Rebbe we see children, and Einiklach, who never saw the Rebbe, and the Lashon Harav is, leapt in uns und durch uns und bands, and we see it's not even an union of Emunah, our children and grandchildren, they have a Rebbe like us, and I dare say better, because this is a truism. And Haman, which is Amalek, he knows his facts, he knows his chronological history, he knows there was a Yudalef Nissen Samach Beis, maybe he knows there was a Gimmul Tammuz und Daled, but he doesn't know that Gimmul Tammuz und Daled, as sad as it is, that we lost a physical presence, that was the day that the Keach was unleashed, etc., etc., in a way that's unbelievable and that's bleakvul. And I want to segue with this to another thought. Which I believe is the big Yetzer Hara of our day. Yetzer Hara, again, does its job. Today, Yetzer Hara doesn't come to a chassid and say that there's no Eibishter, there's no Rebbe, there's no connection. Of course. But the Amalek, but there's also another Yetzer Hara which is connected. And that is the Yetzer Hara that says, the humble Yetzer Hara. Mi ani umani. Yetzer Hara who brings in Marashcheda and negativity. We are experts on negativity. I heard Rabbi Gans talk about this a few times. I think it's one of your pet discussions. We are experts on putting ourselves down and we think it's Chassidish. It's Chassidish. Again, in time bygone, maybe there was such a thing. The Rebbe was Mevatalit Mikol V'Kol. This idea of Marashcheda, and I'm talking even a Chassidish Marashcheda. Me, I don't even chance, I have no shaykhis. We have to change that whole approach. And know that, boy, do we have a shaykhis. Do we deserve a shaykhis? That's another conversation. But the Rebbe is a gute. I heard from elderly shliach, Rabbi Berel Shem Tov, one of the oldest shluchim, should be gesund stark, that his first yechidus, Tafshin Yud Daled, he was a Chassidish Bacher, he came from Chassidim, came from England, whatever it is, and he had his first yechidus. He was a Chassidish Bacher, he was a serious guy, I got the cup, gelent, gedavent, and he made a chanes, he went into yechidus, and he wrote a zettel. And he knows, he got a chinuch of Chassidim, you wrote a zettel, what do you write to the Rebbe? All your spiritual ills. Daven sich nicht, my Abbas Yisrael is not real, my Abbas Hashem, etc., etc. You put it on a paper, all your spiritual ills, and the Rebbe gives you a tikkun. And this was the minig of Chassidim. Maybe they were on a higher level, I don't know. And he put the whole zettel, and he was waiting for the Rebbe to give him a tikkun. She learned the whole Tanya by heart, I don't know. And he's waiting, he puts it in. He went to Yechidus, I think it's his birthday, right before Pesach or something. And the next day he was leaving on a trip to go home to England. So the Rebbe tells him, Farstach Zurich, I don't know, I'm not saying verbatim. You're going back home for Yantif. You're going to travel over the ocean. Yeah? Like, where's the Rebbe going with this? So I want you to take the whole Marashcheda and throw it into the ocean. That was the last he heard of that topic. He was expecting, I hear the Rebbe's going to say, but as far as this, you'll work with this, as far as that, and stop picking away. The Rebbe has no time for this. We have no keiches for this. And the Rebbe's derech v'achassid is, Heb zechuf. You're not perfect. Whoopie-doo. Good morning, America. Thank you very much. We know. Next. Tuvas meheis. Sheish meis elef ragli. Our job is to be foot soldiers. The foot soldiers start saying, I mean tanemes, I don't mean tanemes. You'll lose the war. Just keep going. The Rebbe told my friend Yosker Greenberg from Alaska, when the Rebbe was studying in the last years, with his last breath, Mesidus Nefesh, and the Rebbe was studying Mizaltan. Everyone talks about Chavkas Nissen and Purim Zayin. If you analyze it, in my humble opinion, a lot of it is, stop making cheshbenis. Just do one ma'aseh, one dibur machshav. Keep going. Put on the one tefillin, because 50,000 Jews will put on tefillin. Give one shir with one Jew, 2 Jews, 3 Jews, because there will be 50,000 such shiurim. Learn yourself, Rambam, Chitas, be a from yid, win the Yetzer Hara once and again and again. It's not small, it's huge. We are holding by it. Whoever asked you, just keep going. So Yosker Greenberg wrote to the Rebbe, I think it's like late in the game, like Tafshin Nun Aleph. And he wrote to the Rebbe, is it true that all the Rebbe wants is Amzal Folgen? That this is what the Rebbe wants, Rak L'tzayis. Says, if you ask a chassid from 100 years ago, 50 years ago, the Rebbe wants all kind of things. Is this true that all the Rebbe wants is to follow the program? It's usually simplified. It's very simplistic. Doesn't sound holy. Not so easy to follow. Follow means you have to learn chitas, you have to daven milah b'milah, you have to learn chassidus, etc. You have to do. You have to fill in. But the cheshbon is not who am I, how am I doing? Am I holy? Am I loving? Am I okay? The cheshbon is what am I doing with my time? There still is a cheshbon nefesh, but not how am I doing, but what am I doing? So he wrote this to the Rebbe. Is this true that the Rebbe wants Mizal Nar Folgen? And the Rebbe wrote to him. He got an answer. He was a young kid. Maybe he was just married or a bacher. The Rebbe wrote, "Marti kam upon him. I've been saying this all along. Hello, good morning, wake up." The Rebbe was Megala, the real premise of Chabad. that what is a Yid, it was ein Zach mit the Rebbe. The Rebbe took a piece of the Rebbe and put it into every chassid, and all the Lashenis the Rebbe said at the end, the Rebbe chassid and the Admur, etc. And we see it. We see the Rebbe put keiches into every one of us, which doesn't make any sense. And part of that, the Rebbe said, your job is to do, be the Raglayim, and keep on trucking and move forward. And that is another suggestion I'm humbly making, you know, when you're a guest in a place and then you leave and that's it, you get away with it, so you can say what you want to say. So my first suggestion was that each of us should go in as a Ben Yochid Zum Rebbe. My second suggestion was to put on that extra tefillin and not miss an opportunity. I know we each a shliach, it's not my suggestion, we saw it on the video. And now I'm suggesting that whenever the Yetzer Hara comes and he's a Chassidish Yetzer Hara, and he shows up and he tells you, you don't add up to nothing, you'll never know any Chassidus, you don't really know what Chassidus is, B'chlal, who are you? What's your last name? Are you Gezher? Like all this Narishkeit. To come along and tell him hello, jump in the lake, Yam HaMelach. Like the Rebbe told Berel Shem Tov, drop it in the water. And I'm going to tell you something which is unbelievable. Somebody pointed out to me a few years ago. I said, how come this is not printed in big letters? The Rebbe made a statement on Yud Shvat Tavshin Yud Aleph. There was one more time to my knowledge the Rebbe made a statement. Anybody know when that was? In 40 plus years in the Nesius, there was one other time, to my knowledge, maybe there's more. The mazel is that it's a weekday, so it's a Shabbos, it's not recorded, but it's printed in the Sichas Kodesh, where the Rebbe made a statement. Hello? It was Shalach, Tavshin Yud Dalet. And the Rebbe said L'chaim Beisteis, and the Rebbe was Uvgelegt, and the theme of the Farbrengen seemed to be, the theme was that it's 3 years of the Nesius, Shnei Orla, and maybe even Netaravoy, depends when you count from. And therefore the Kerem, the Rebbe didn't say the Kerem is his, but the Rebbe said that the Bala Kerem, Nesidereinu, empowers him to be the Shemer HaKerem, something like that. Basically, in plain English, that the Rebbe was almost celebrating, he says that now he can claim ownership of a Kerem Chabad. So he's going to make a statement. Print it, look at it, it's on your phones. It's a few clicks away. And the Rebbe says 3 things. Die alle was von Anash was darf gebencht werden mit seiner Chayva Kayom und gebencht werden. Anyone who needs a brach of children should have it. Statement number 2. Die alle was darf bencht werden Parnasa should have it. Anyone needs Parnasa. I guess Manash, whatever it is. And then the Rebbe said one more thing. Die alle was darf potter werden von der Moreschere, und potter werden von der Moreschere. Those who have to rid themselves on the melancholy should rid themselves. Think about this. Haga ba'atzmachas, Lubavitcher Rebbe, Shabbos b'Shalach. He's a serious Jew, l'chol ha'deis. And he's making 3 statements. I assume he's not just talking to us, he's talking to the Kisa Kovid. Number 1, we should have kids. That's kind of important. We should make a living. That's nice too. He has one more slot available. I could think of other things. The Rebbe opened a new page. This whole thing, I'm nothing. Stop! Who cares what you are? And we know you're nothing, it's a given. It's over, it's done. Nobody here is Ilaparache, no one's Isaac Humler, no one is even, you know what I mean? We get it. We are zeichet to be in the Rashvi. And we have a Rebbe who führt uns and he empowers us and we know it with our own eyes. It's 28 years later, whoever thought this would be. And each one on the same, as sad as it is, we don't feel more distant, we feel closer. We feel closer, we can't help it. Psanes. So just get, the Rebbe's hero was not to follow and move forward. So I want to suggest that we should walk away with that achlata. To fight this Heilige Yetzer Hara because he's a killer. You know that Friedrich Rebbe says in the Maimon V'Kiv Al Yehudim, on which the Atat Tzava is based, there's an Oyev and a Misnakim. The Misnakim is worse than the Oyev because he's undercover. He looks like he's your friend. You're speaking about the Sektia, the Jewish underground, which were worse than the Russian communists. He acts like your friend. This Yetzer Hara is a killer. This Yetzer Hara, I don't know the people in the room. Maybe everybody here is Mbeidik. If there's one person in this room which the hat fits, it's worth for me to have this conversation. To walk out and say from now on, all this stupidity of self-judgment. Do I count? Do I not count? I'm a big chassid, a little chassid, a midget, a giant. One thing I know, I have a Rebbe who's a giant, and I'm zeicher to be his chassid, and I'm going to use any waking hour to march forward. You know, there's a famous story, which I don't know if it's true. This is Rabbi Zaltzman. I doubt it's true. I have my reasons to doubt, but my holy brother, Rabbi Yossi Paltiel, if you don't listen to him yet, you should be. InsideChasidus.com. My holy brother tells the story, and he's a shtickle bal shmur, so maybe it's true. But I'm telling it for the relevance that they say that the Frierdiker Rebbe appointed for the Rebbe and Rashag assistants. The Rebbe was given Mendel Feldman, Rashag was given J.J. Hecht. That's the story. I don't know if it's true, but the point is true. So Rashag complains to the Ramash, to the Rebbe, you got Mendel Feldman. If you know Mendel Feldman from Australia, we know him. Mendel Feldman, he was like a Muslim, he was a Rav, everything. He had every stripe, every check, every box. And Rashag said, and me, I got J.J. Hecht, an American boy, a Yankee. So the story goes that the Rebbe said to Rashag, you know what, I'll switch with you. I have a problem with the story because it doesn't sound right that the Rebbe should switch what the Frierdiker Rebbe appointed. If it's true, maybe the Frierdiker Rebbe didn't appoint. Maybe it was just appointed. But Al Kaponim, the Nikud of the story, not to put down Mendel Feldman, who was a very good Jew. But the Rebbe wants J.J. Hecht. He wants Penny. Pull the trigger! Stop telling me who you are and who you're not. Just march. Who you are, your feet. If your feet start having opinions, you got big problems. If your feet are healthy, they know they have a head, the head moves them. We have a head. We have a gesund cup. And we will march to the Gala and be united, but we are always connected with our head. And I want to suggest the best antidote, and this is also something I heard from Rabbi Gans. The best antidote to this Narisha Machshavas, Machshava Mishetetes Tamid. Machshava is an unbelievable thing, but it's also a terrible thing because it never stops. And this, what's the antidote? We have a lot of time today. You know, life is easy, relatively. We have a lot of time. You know, in the world, they fill it with Netflix. What do we do to avoid this Machshava Mishetetes? Limud HaTorah. Those who know the Rebbe's middle name is Limud HaTorah. There wasn't a Farbrengen where the Rebbe didn't push Limud HaTorah. First of all, the Rebbe leapt Torah. The Rebbe would stand by dollars. People would give him a svarim, a mechaber. Doesn't matter, the mechaber is a big goin, not such a big goin. The Rebbe could not resist on the spot to open the sefer. And obviously, he wasn't putting on a show for anybody. Ayin and Torah, the Rebbe is precious. But the Rebbe spoke about his sofa every Farbrengen to add on Limud HaTorah. Somebody even asked the Rebbe once, how are we supposed to keep doing these sofas? Again, I don't know who I'm talking to. I know Baruch Hashem and Lubavitch, the last 20 years, it came in vogue to be in shiurim. I'll tell you myself, personally, I'm a shliach, and I'm saying this, to say this because if one person will be in the Seder, it's worth it for me. I went on shlichus, 32 years ago. I didn't have a real kviyas. I'm a shliach, I'm saving the world. I learned Rambam, in bed at night, I don't know, whatever it is. A kviyas, a grubkeit, a shliach. And I realized it took a few days, a few weeks, a few months. It didn't take too very long. And I realized I'm going, I'm moving really quickly, like the previous speaker said, but in the wrong direction. Hello? Because if you don't eat, you're going to be hungry. You can't just live on energy, on faith. You got to, the famous story with the horse, that the guy bought a horse and he's trying to train the horse to live without food. And if the horse can live for 30 days without food, now you know he's going to be trained. And the 29th day, every day he cut out more and more. The 29th day, the horse died. He said, I don't know, he came so close to living without food. And then he died on me. We're looking for inspiration. We're looking for emunah. We're looking for iskashras. We don't open a sefer. Like this microphone, it won't work. It's working. It's not bad. I got it, Ben Shimon. It's my guy. It's my team. Can we hear it for Ben Shimon? Hello? Come on. He makes the whole event. And I woke up, thanked the Eibishter, thanks to my Rebbe Zayin Gesund who said, Shalom, if you're uninspired, I think you should learn every day. What, I should learn? I'm a shliach. Started a kviyas with another shliach. I searched out a chavrusa. We learn every day by phone. Started an hour a day. Now we learn 90 minutes a day. And it's not a big deal. And I'm a guy who runs a budget and alle gute Sachen. Alle gute Sachen and people, but there's always time in a day. And the ikir is, this is the air we breathe, the famous sikha of the Rebbe, of Gachab Margolius, of diamonds and coal. You can be busy with all things, but if you suffocate and you have no air, nothing's going to happen. I want to suggest, today it's easier than ever. Again, I'm saying things that are simple and everybody knows this, but someone has to say it. Today with technology, everything is available. And you can get yourself a tablet. I own a tablet. We don't have a computer, Baruch Hashem, in our home. I got myself a tablet. It's a holy tablet. I don't take it into the bathroom. This tablet only has Josh Gordon. Anybody listen to Josh Gordon over here? I'm glad you asked. All right? Houston, we got a problem. Start listening to Rambam on the treadmill. It's another good deed, by the way, to do a little exercise. Not so bad. Keep your sanity. It has Josh Gordon, Rambam, Chabad.org, can learn Ablat Gemara, Omid Gemara. By the way, there's a big thing in Lubavitch. People are learning Daf Yomi. Some people have a problem with it because they never spoke. Not against it, but I was there by the Farbrengen. It's difficult for me to embrace it because I heard it. But then I heard that the Friedrich Rebbe pushed the Omid Yomi. This guy had bigger than them. Friedrich Rebbe said a chassid should allow himself to learn a Omid Gemara a day. Again, the Rebbe was not against anything. The Rebbe wasn't an against person. If you're not learning Gemara and making a siyum maybe 7 years, it's chakid Shem Shemayim. But the fact is that the Friedrich Rebbe said Omid Yomi, Yotzal Mipumid Rav Kana, and Omid Yomi is more doable. And I'm not saying we have Rambam to us, that's number one. And I'm going to humbly say this. Since I'm leaving town, so there's no issues. They're not going to give me maftir tomorrow or shishi. They're going to give me my check and send me home. But on this tablet, I listen to Omid Gemara every single day. Chabad.org, it's the end of the day, I'm tired. For me to open up and learn, it's hard. To listen to a shir, and there's 50 different shiurim, pick. I found someone that I like. I happen to like the guy on Chabad.org, Zions. But you pick anything. Project Lakota Siches. Dear friends, every chassid could be on Project Lakota Siches. No better days. Dalit. The Rebbe wanted we should learn his Torah. Anyone who heard the Farbrengen, the Rebbe cried. I say a sikha, there's so many questions, and nobody writes, how could you say this? How could you say this? What do you mean? You're the Rebbe, you're the boss, you know. And the Rebbe was upset that people didn't object. How come? And didn't fight over the sikhs and learn it. If it's Torah, it has to be learned. Today they made the Chazal Sikhs, and again, it's done in a brilliant way. Men, women, children. You could learn that, they have the 8-minute daf. 10-minute sikha. I'm not recommending a 10-minute sikha. But the point I want to make is this. It's so easy. It's so easy. And you have to speak Keneged Yetzer Hara. You have to make goals. Again, this is something that Amal Chassidim didn't go for it. Goals, it's a Yetzer Hara and Nefesh Habamis. But you know what? The Rebbe embraced any opportunity that will lift up a Yid. And today there's easy opportunities for She'el Tachtis. It's not difficult to get to hell. It's not so hard. They used to say that if a Jew wanted to do an Aveda back in the day, it wasn't so easy. If you live in a shtetl from community, if you want to sin, you have to know somebody. You have to have connections. Today, it's a click away. So She'el Tachtis is not such a distance. We got to fill that kepi of ours. A, Chas v'Shalom to avoid She'el Tachtis, and B, the Frume Yetzer Hara. He is a fast ticket to She'el Tachtis too. Get yourself a tablet. I'm giving a suggestion. Give your wife the code. One of my sons has it. The thing is holy. I cannot take it into the bathroom. There's Gemara, there's Rambam, Project Lekutei Sichos, and lately I added on a JLI because I have to listen to the shir. What do I need more? I come home, my wife needs my phone. My wife is one of those people who doesn't believe that people should have phones. So she shares my phone. It's the only phone in the house for like 12 people. Just take my phone, I got my tablet. The Bible let me up a Blat Gemara, Omid Gemara, a Rambam, a Sikha from Rebbe. They set up that in 10 years you go through Likutei Sichos. Used to be who goes through Likutei Sichos? The Chayzrim, the Rabbanim. I have a son, Levi, just got married. He became a Mechutin with Shia Werner. And when he was a Bacher, he went through the whole Likutei Sichos. I look at him like, whoa, like, where do you come from? I mean, let's be honest. Guess what? In 8 years, I'm going to be finished Likutei Sichos. Little me. With the money, with the problems, with everything else. I have an 8-year-old son. I told him that by his wedding, I'll make a Siyam Hashas. And it's contagious, because I'm doing it. My son is doing it. My other son is doing it. People that weren't opening a sefer. The ikir is, there's 2 conversations. Everyone should pick that thing. The Gemara says, La'elam yilmeid adam b'makim shali b'chafetz. It's an unbelievable thing. There's a beautiful sikh about it. You have to learn what you love. Chassidim are so used to Kabbalah sale. I'm sorry that I'm being a little revolutionary if I am, but I think it's mamish the Rebbe's kav. Chassidim, Kabbalah sale. You have to read the Rambam. Somebody says a Kaddish after he reads the Rambam, because it's like Tillim. Are you allowed to say Rambam at night? It's like Tillim, you can't say it. Chmana litzlan. Listen to Josh. You'll love it. You have also a few good jokes, meanwhile, to boot. I'm giving a suggestion. I mean, you don't need my suggestion. Someone else has another teacher or themselves. The whole world is open to us. Every teacher, every subject. You want to learn Nigla, you have 50 teachers. You want to learn Tanya properly? Yossi Jacobson, Yossi Paltiel, Simon Jacobson, Manis Friedman, Label Oltine, Yael Khan. It's available. You want to learn Shulchan Aruch. You want to go from the beginning to the end. Why not? It's a nachas ruach. I'm going to tell you something else I do. The people are going to hate me over here. I made a spreadsheet on my computer. And on the spreadsheet, because I want to give a duch at the end of the month to my boss. I have a boss. And the chretzich and shine that I add up to much, but I'm trying to do my job. I'm holding my rifle and my uniform. I'm trying not to screw up and not to kill anybody in the process, including myself. A couple of times I shot myself in the leg, but other than that, I try to move forward. So I got to come to my boss at the end of the month. How do I know what happened in a month? So I made a spreadsheet, and I have columns. Tefillin. Call me Pisher. If I put tefillin on a yid, I make a note. By the end of the month, tefillin. Whatever it is. Sometimes it's a big number, sometimes it's not. Kakaftis, mezuzah, kayetze mivtzoyim, shiurim. How many people came to shiurim? And I dare say, my own limud HaTorah. How you doing with Rambam? Rambam is meant to be learned like Torah Sheba'al Peh with the Birchas HaTorah, not like you don't know what's flying. Rambam, Ablat Gemara, Chassidus. I'm not going to sit here and preach. We should learn Chassidus versus Nigla. It has to be Liber Chafetz. Likutei Sichos. And you walk into the end of the month, you write it, settle. It takes like 2 hours because you have what to write. You have a boss, Asataten. You walk in. We're not foolish. No one's foolish to think, oh, look at me. Obviously, you walk out feeling I should do more. But l'chol ha'pachas, you're human. The Rebbe is living. The Rebbe is putting his home tziyus into me, little me, that I should be frum. That I shouldn't become a goy. That I should learn a little Torah. I should learn about Chassidus. I should have a shaykhis to the Amoir, the Erki Teva of Chassidus Chabad. Why don't I tell him? It's another Yetzer Hara. The Rebbe knows everything, of course. But to bring in the gift, and part of that same conversation, Chazung Avot from Monsey, those who remember Rabbi Pekarsky, when he would say Monsey, it meant it was his own idea. That somebody asked me once in my shul, how come we finished Manesra with the Oseh Shalom? It's a big deal in suburbia. Oseh Shalom, it's a song. And then we have Yiratzim Ufanecha. So I suggested the following. The biggest bracha is Shalom. Sim Shalom is Yechidah Shebenefesh. What do we want in life? We want peace. We want peace. The struggle between the Nefesh Habamis, the animal soul, the divine soul, physicality, spirituality. I mean, that's the issue. That's why there are therapists in the world. Because the lack of peace. The biggest bracha, really, Shalom Kan, Hakal Kan. What do we want? We want peace. We want to be able to relax and know that I'm okay. My animal and my human, they're getting along a little bit. Sim Shalom. And then we repeat it at the end. They'll say shalom, I explain to my people. Michal mal shemayim, Gabriel says shalish. Fire and water are opposites. The shama and the guf, yitzahar and yitzatev, they're opposites. And if you can settle it down and the animal is serving the human is leading the animal, then you got a semblance of peace. You're okay. And that's the bottom line, as we say in America. The bottom line is Shmoneh. The bottom line means the Sachakal. But Rabbi, there's another prayer at the bottom. Yeah, it's for Mesa Mashiach, because that's when it will be universal. Every year, then every person, the whole world will have that concept of inner peace and etc. But what about the last three words? It's like the Rebbe said to someone by dollars who complained that the Rebbe should give him a bracha, that it should have a geshmak. He should have a geshmak in learning. And the Rebbe, this is my friend and mentor, Rabbi Yossi Jacobson. Shalom Aleichem. Bereshus, Harav. Everybody already gave to the fund, Mr. Tama. Good to see you. I'm honored. So you're finishing over. So the guy asked the Rebbe by dollars. He should give him a bracha for. You know what I'm talking about? The same guy who asked the Rebbe about the sukkah, why we sleep in the sukkah. So after the whole back and forth for a half hour, give me a bracha, the same Beinu. I should have a geshmak and limatayda. And the Rebbe says, everybody's in Golus, so much tzaddas, and you're complaining that you want to have a geshmak and limatayda. Like stop being so. How does it fit? We just finished Shmoneh and everything else, the whole milchama that we deal with, the whole inner battle, and we try to get semblance of peace, which is really messianic. It's a transformation of our mitzias in the whole world. And then we throw in a few lines. So we had to Mount Harebim. Now, what is the practicality? When Mashiach comes, I get it, but till then, the practicality to have peace, unless you want to spend a lot of money on therapy. And I'm not joking, therapy is not a bad thing. There's a place for it, by the way. There really is. But it's not a solution, it's just a tool. How am I going to get there? Machshava mishetetes tamid. The Yitzhar is playing with my mind. The Yitzhar is a chaverman. He is on the ball. He never has a bad day. He's always up. Not just I should learn Torah. I should find my place that I love. Stop Kabbalah sale. Find the geshmak. Listen to, I don't know if he was here when I mentioned that they should listen to you on the internet. You weren't here. I didn't say it because you're here, because I didn't know you were here. Were you here? I mentioned Yossi Jacobson, Yossi Paltiel, etc. There's no excuse anymore. I'm excited about it because I just discovered it. Like very recently, I got my tablet. It's about my last birthday, Chav Cheshvan. I can't believe it. It's like, hello, I can sit on the couch. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. I don't even have the physical energy to open the sefer. And I'm learning because someone is teaching me. And I'm covering ground. Dibra Teira Keneged Yitzhahara. I know it's a Farbrengen, but the Yitzhahara still exists. And that is the Rebbe's way. Elevate yourself. Work with the animal. Empower, harness the animal. And if you're human, you want goals. By my son's wedding, I'm going to finish Shas. My Mizinik. He's turning 9. He reminds me, if I miss a day, he reminds me, Tati, you got to finish, because I'll be doing a number a day. It's going to take about 15 years. Same thing in Rambam. I can walk into the Rebbe, I learn Rambam, I know what Pirush HaMilos L'chal Pachat. Finish the Kutasiches. Other than Yanim Chassidus. Mitagishmak. If you listen one day to Josh and it doesn't talk to you, try the other guy. You listen to Paltiel, it doesn't work, listen to Jacobson. Listen to Simon. There's Veltisha people giving shurim on all these subjects. PLS, Project L'Kutasiches, has 30, 40 Magidi shurim. Find. It's worth it. If you're looking for a diamond, you're going to find. People are looking for Parnasa. They try this, they try that, till they hit something. Anyone here get Ami magazine? Hello? So they talk about the successes. Nobody's success in the first try. You try this, it bombs. You try this, it bombs. You fight for your life. And then you find a Parnasa. Wow, it's unbelievable. You're on the cover of the Ami business section. What about Ruchnis? It's not just Ruchnis. It's Gashmis. It's sanity. Netflix is not an answer for us. First of all, it's not an option. Second of all, it's expensive. Third of all, it's stupid. It gives you more headaches. You need more therapy. How do I know? Because I'm surrounded by a community that's Netflix addicted, and they're nuts. I was talking in Shul one Shabbos. On a quiet Shabbos in the summer, you could say the truth sometimes. So I told them that I'm sitting in the dentist's office, the whole room of people, And I needed to be on the phone because I had stuff going on. I couldn't sit there. And it was a doctor's office. Before camp, they all had to take tests. So it's full. I took like 4 of my kids in one shot. And I'm going to sit there for an hour and a half. I couldn't afford the test. I got on the phone. I said to my kids, and there's a full waiting room. And there's a big screen playing at 6 o'clock at night. So it's dinner time. Used to be family type of programming. Today, family programming, advice stays, what used to be at midnight, is 6 o'clock in the evening to give a chinuch, mitzvah chinuch. Make sure the kids know now what they won't ever have to know. I'm watching it, I'm nauseous, and my kids are glued because they have never, this is unbelievable. Baruch Hashem, they don't know what it looks like. They're like, wow, this is unbelievable. They're turning colors. Tutzach, lebedik, schurim, the kaivis, the ganze mas. I'm a little nauseated, plus I'm busy, so I get up and I tell my kids, just loud enough for the whole room to hear. There's about 25 parents waiting with their kids. I said, you guys, I gotta make a phone call, I'm gonna step out. You wait here and watch this trash. Every single mother looked up. Talking about goyim, I don't know. So trust me, if you think you're missing out, believe me, I know. I spoke in a shul, by shul, that Shabbos, I told the story. And it was a small crowd, so I was able to get away with it. Even though I think the truth is not a bad idea, but I'm not sure if I would do it, if I would recommend to YYJ to put it into one of his Yom Kippur sermons. Maybe, maybe not. And I talked about this, and I said, you know, we sit there, and I said, I go to the dentist, and he has a screen up there. And I said, do me a favor, could you close it? I have a headache, just from the ads. They're flying back and forth. I can't process so quickly. I'm going to Michigan. And I said to the people, I want to take my hat off to you. I don't know why I'm talking about this. This is not really, I don't think this is really the Nisayon of the day among Anash, but nevertheless, just as a digression. I said to my people in Shul, I take off my hat to you, that you're normal, that you're sane. You live in the world of VT. In my house, we don't say TV, we say VT. But the Lashon Remez. You live in a world of VT and you're still sane. Wow! So somebody in back of the room was an honest guy, gets up and says, Rabbi, you're wrong, we're not sane. So trust me, the reason this is not going to bring you any shalom, any peace, that option, the Eibush Baruch Shem gives Arichas Yamim in time. This is it's a derech tzara v'arucha. Arucha, tzara, however you wish. It's easy, it's accessible. Today, technology is mechayev. Rebbe mechayev Hashirim. It's mechayev us in a kosher way, of course. We can do anything at our fingertips. Pick your teacher. And I'm here to tell you, since I'm leaving town, I get away with it, pick the one you love. You should wait for the time to pick up that thing at the end of the night, or on your own, it doesn't matter. And you can't wait to pick up the Sefer. With a geschmack, not Kabbalah sale, Dalai Kabbalah sale. Kabbalah sale is important for Shema Yisrael and Meidani. I got it. Next. You know, there's a famous Iglei Tal, the Sachachover discussions if you're allowed to have a geschmack and limit ateda. It's a problem because mitzvahs lav lehenes nindu. We're not supposed to do mitzvahs like geschmack, and the conventional wisdom in Deda Shekadmunu was that limit ateda should not be about geschmack, especially in the Chassidish Gdelim. If you learn because Tedas Hashem. Kimuvan, obviously, that's the reason. But you know, the Baal Shem Tov was Megala and Eidim Gam Tzmeim when I eat a piece of delicious sushi with exactly the right mix and the dip. My neshama wants it, and I'm not worried about it. Meanwhile, I enjoy the sushi, and my neshama enjoys it. It's okay, we do both. So it's okay, lahavdol, limit ateda, to do the same. Anyway, there was a debate over the generations among Gedolei Yisrael. The Sachachover, the Iglei Tal famously said, it's okay. There were those who said it's not okay to have a geschmack and limit ateda. There was those who said it's evil, but there's no choice. And he was the first one to come along, Emes HaGadol B'Yisrael, to say it's okay, it's worth it. Because you'll have a geschmack, you'll learn more. Still as a needed evil. It's not really ideal, but we need it. And he made it kosher. Comes along the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I'm done? Shut the mic. Oh, I'm gonna finish with this. Oh, very good. Okay, I'm finished. Comes along the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and it's nicht kriegen Sachen, he quotes the Sachen. But every generation is Nugilu, the Eibishter Hakal Ofi Yosabite. The Lubavitcher Rebbe says it, Amugidike Maimer, Arba Rosh Hashanim Heim. And he quotes him, and he says, quotes him in the And the Rebbe says that really, not only is it okay to have a geschmack. If you learn Torah without a geschmack, it's a shaila b'chlal if you're learning Torah. Why? So the Rebbe makes a pashta cheshbon. Torah, it's like a person who learns Torah without understanding. Lo yoda mai kamar. If you're learning Torah b'ksav, maybe it works. If you're learning Torah without understanding, I don't have to understand, it's the Eibish's Torah, but that's the definition of Torah means learning Seichel of Hashem. If you're learning without Seichel, you're not learning. Says the Lubavitcher Rebbe, Apichsidis, Torah is more than just Hashem Seichel. It's the Eibish's Tainug. It's the deepest pleasure. Says the Rebbe, you hear this? If you learn Torah and you push it not having a ball, you're not having a geschmack, it's a question if you're learning Torah, because the gather of Torah is that the Eibishter has geschmack and he's sharing it with you. Let's fill our time. And as Chassidim, let's put a duch. We have a boss, we're not stray cats. Cats don't smile, he said before. It was very nice to listen to Rabbi Shabbos, Talmud Chochem, Mikra Shabbos. But, I don't know, we're not stray cats. You have a cat, a pet that has an owner, he's happy. We're simple, we're not so fancy, maybe we're pets. But you know what? We have a boss. We get that on a duch. Miftzoyim, tefillin, neshek, shiurim. How many people come to the shir? I have a shir where 50 people come. 1 week, 4 people come. I got to write it. I got a boss who wants to know, etc. And everyone knows, everyone knows his struggles. If he struggles, put it in. It was a good month. It was an okay month. Not so good. Almost good. Could be good. Next month will be better. And to fight the Yetzer Hara of Amalek, he doesn't know my name. Do you know your name? He knows your name better. Does the head know your name of the foot, or the head knows the foot better than the foot? Does the Rebbe know your name? And to fill the time, as the Rebbe said, this is not my invention. The Rebbe screamed, Farbrengen, Haisafa and Limbadat Teira. What do you know who he's talking to? He's talking to a bunch of busy people. A bunch of Lubavitchers who are busy saying L'chaim and looking for things to do and change the world and save the world. And the same Lubavitcher Rebbe said, Haisafa and Limbadat Teira. And the next week, the takeaway, Haisafa and Limbadat Teira. The next week, Haisafa and Limbadat Teira. I think he means simply until you run out of time, when you have no time looking for Netflix, or just this holy Yetzer Hara that you're not so holy. Holy. We are connected to the Nasi Adar. We're the luckiest people. Let's give him a little nachas. Thank you, L'chaim. We're going to move down?
Yes, L'chaim, L'chaim. L'chaim, Rav Altia, L'chaim, everyone. We're just going to relocate to the tables there, and please pay attention to the screens. We have a short video to show you that's a very inspirational short video. L'chaim.
Helft der Reis Haiden. In was für Haiden ist es soll nicht sein. Sag nicht scheich ist zu sagen, der Fall, was tut, a Teva Menschen, nein sagt, befreit es von sein Chef, von sein Schuss, was hat, auf helfen oder der Menschen, soll sein ein Mensch, soll sein ein Jinischer Kayom, soll haben dem Kiyum, wie sein Kiyum ist. Al derech wie mir seht in Jone Haguf, als mir kann nicht sagen, der Fall, was helft dem Areis in der Sache, was helft ein Never. Befreit es von Areis helfen in dem Inje, wo du drauf hängt, ob sein ganzer Kiyum, sein ganzen Chayus, ist eine sichere Sache, als das Aufhalten als soll sein, Dover Chayim, sein Chayim, und das ist zum alle Menschen sein Chayim und nicht sein Schuss. Aber mir sagt Aiden, wie bald du bist dem zweiten Sabos, wo hat bei dir ein Job. Bemeile wird sich zuhören zu deinen Wörtern mehr,
Wer wird sich zuhören zu Wörtern von einem Menschen, mit wem trifft sich auf der gleichen Leben, wer von dem nicht mit Kabel keine Unionen. Kann nicht entfernen, aber was hat es für ein Scheich ist. Hat ihm gedungen, soll bei ihm tun, an dem Job, an dem Ingen. Und der Pfarrer darf ihm bezahlen, schartirche Parnassose. Was hat es ein Scheich ist, soll reden mit ihm wegen Hanoches Tfilin. Und Achilles Kashrus und Schmira Shabbos und Taras am Gesprochen mit allen Sachen, nicht ist ein Rov und nicht ist ein Magid Mishorim und nicht ist ein Mussersoger, ist mehr nicht, was der Rebester hat gewollt, an die Parnasse von dem Zweiten soll sein auf der Ruf Schliach, durch der Ruf, was beim Arbeiten in Office, wird durch ihn haben sein Parnasse. Ob nicht auf der Ruf hat ihm der Rebester gemacht, als Schliach, wenn geht zur Jüdischkeit. Und der Ruf kommt uns zu lernen, oder Mishorim und Amurim. Als Madoch, als helft ihm Areis in Parnasse Gashmis, Allah es kam und kam, als darf ihm Areis helfen in Azach, was hi Chayenu verech Yameinu. Und das ist der Chayim. Und nach Chayim in der Nefen von Erech Yomim, von jeder Rieden. Die Scheile, was nicht gerov und nicht gemagid Mishorim und nicht gemusser, sogar V'chulu, da rät sich nicht wegen Pasken in Scheiles. Und da rät sich nicht wegen Sorgen Musser. Da rät sich mithelfen mit zweiten Nieden, soll sein lebendig, oder als lebendig soll werden, noch lebendiger. Und bis wann hat haben Erech Yomim, bis wann hat der zweite Ried wird werden, wie gerät früher am Aspia, auf Einwirken auf sein ganzes Zwiebel, als die ganze Zwiebel echt machen lebendig. Wo der Pfarrer ist, Cheyachte Chiches Amisecha, steht auf drauf nicht kein Gdorim, aber das ist gesagt worden, wer nicht Pfarrer oder mehr nicht für ein Magid Mishorim, für ein Musser, sogar V'chulu, das ist eine von den Tov, Reish, Yud, Gimmul, Mitzvahs. Was auf der Ruf sagt man, Ramach, Mitzvah, Sessek, Dege, Ramach, Evrim, Idos, ein Mensch, ein Jid, was hat Ramach, Evrim, ist zwischen die Ramach, Evrim, da ein Never. Was und das ist verbunden mit dem Team von Mitzvah Sesse, Chiches Amisecho, V'aftel Yacho Komecho, Allah es kam, wie gerät früher, als hat eine größere Möglichkeit. Als soll folgen, wie sie hat eine zweite Ried. Aber bei Rechtigen sagt, als sein Kescher und seine Verbindung hat kein Scheiches nicht. Zu Jüdischkeit oder die Messias in die Tag, Kol Israel, Arevin, Sebo, Se. Alle Jiden sind zusammengemischt. Und der eine Teil, der zweite Teil, bis wann nicht. Die Zusammenmischung ist in Asamien Reifen, man ist an Norev. Für die Jüdischkeit von der zweiten Jiden, Allah es kam, wir kamen, Eber mitzar Matzove und mitzar Mamodi und Matzove. Sie in ihnen Kalkolo, was durch ihn bekommt jener Parnasse. Oder mitzar Druba kommt jener Covid, was es soll nicht sein, muss das genutzt werden. Und Bechayus und Besimcha und mit und Besever Ponim Jofes, als Mekarev sein Aiden zu Jüdischkeit, zu Limo da Teire, Vekim am Mitzvahs, worum am meisten Hu Hoyiker,
Hallelujah.